Worm is a web serial by J.C. McCrae, also known as Wildbow. You can read Worm in its original format by visiting parahumans.wordpress.com or donate to Wildbow's Patreon at patreon.com/wildbow. This story isn't intended for young or sensitive readers. Readers who are on the lookout for trigger warnings are advised to give Worm a pass. For a complete list, check the description for all of Worm's trigger warnings.
Good evening, Brockton Bay. Where are the travelers now, and where did they come from? In this hard-hitting episode, we will follow their tragic tale. Move on over to the rest of our news crew and the Brockton Bay Book Club. Jacob, what do you think?
I was not prepared to pick up in this format.
Hey,
It's snowy out here in Wisconsin.
Oh.
No, I was trying to keep with the theme.
I'm sorry, Hannah legitimately got lost. Hannah was like, "It's snowing in there?"
I should have passed it on to the esports expert,
Yeah.
Jacob.
Yeah, there we go.
Jacob
There we go.
Sportsfield.
Yeah. Picking it up. All right. Well, just to not confuse the audience too much here. Welcome back, everybody, to the Brockton Bay Book Club, reading and discussing Worm by J.C. McCrae. How's everybody doing here?
Oh, you know,
Yep.
living our best
Good.
life.
You know,
Don't
vibing,
know.
thriving, and not a eyeball-covered freak monster.
Unaliving.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's-
yeah.
Vibing, thriving, and not unaliving. I like it.
Put it on a shirt, on a t-shirt.
We are in arc 17
Ooh.
of Worm. Feels like we're just cruising.
Really
I
are.
want
love
to
it.
say, having read this, we are officially at the 50% mark.
No way. Is
Oh,
that
wow.
right?
That's exciting.
I
like
mean,
word-
according
word
to
count.
my Kindle's percentage, we are
Okay.
50% of the way through this book.
Holy macaroni.
Kindle would never lie to us.
So
Kindle
proud.
has never lied to me.
That's
I love Kindle.
Well, we've got a fun arc. Arc 17 is a whole interlude arc about our favorite ragtag group of dimension hoppers and the Travelers.
Yeah, with only one L. Travelers, one L, as it turns out.
Yes. One L in that word.
I say that, and I look, and Hannah has also spelled it with two L's.
I have spelled it with two L's.
because that's how I've always spelled it.
I will blame this on Steamrick from Space Battles
Oh,
forums.
dang.
His synopsis is
Shots fired.
Synopsis.
She didn't mean it, Stream. She didn't
I'm
mean
sorry.
it.
I'm sorry.
I would never say that about Steamrick.
I know. He's been so helpful. They've been so
Steamer,
helpful
get yourself an editor.
in their these summaries have been very helpful, and I very much use them and reference them constantly. And because of that, I definitely spelled Travelers with two L's.
I
I'm
have
sorry.
always spelled Travelers with two L's. And Jacob pointed out, I forget if we talked about this before, that's because there is an RPG spelled that way. And but
Yeah.
I also haven't played that RPG until a few years ago, and I've definitely always spelled that Travelers in my head with two L's anyway. So I personally would like to think this is just a failing on Wildbow's behalf. That he just, when you're editing and you're writing through, sometimes you just misspell things constantly and consistently, and just kind of glaze over it. But it is, in fact, supposed to be spelled with two L's, and we all know this.
I was about to say, do not talk about
Marquee.
our Lord and Savior
Marquee.
Wildbow in that way. Actually, this is probably a good time to ask. I was going to ask this before we started recording, but because I know I'm going to get it wrong, how is the Endbringer's name pronounced?
Ooh,
Simmerg.
so I
Well,
disagree.
Yeah.
I think it's
okay.
Smurf.
Because I also have my whole life pronounced
Your
it
whole
like
life. Your entire life.
my
Yeah.
entire
It
very
life.
was his
early
first
days.
word. I was
It was-
there.
Yeah, Nick was there. Daddy Nick was there.
It's true.
No.
I also thought because of how they mispronounce it, they said,
Yes.
"Isn't it like that Smurf thing?" To which I read it Simurf.
Right. That's
Mhm.
how same.
Up until prepping for this podcast, like not this episode, but this recent thing where like
The early days.
was like looking up the pronunciations because I would hear people say it on the audiobooks, and there were some that they just got wrong and didn't consistently stick with. Not their fault, it was all over the place there. But yeah, they just said like Simmerg, and I'm like, the what?
That's
Yeah.
how I've always read it.
I mean, yeah, I've pronounced it Simmerg. But Jacob, what were you saying was the pronunciation?
Well, Alan alluded to it in this arc, so I call it Smurf because in this arc, I forget who it is, which one of them says it. They go, "Oh, it's the Smurf," and then Jess or one of them corrects and says, "No, Smurf." So, like, if the mispronunciation is Smurf, then it would stand to reason that people are just mishearing
God.
Simurf.
Simmer.
All right, so this is
saying
what
Smurf.
please someone reread this. This is what the wiki says.
Pronounced
Seymour.
Morg.
Seamorg.
Seamorg.
Or
Or
Seamorg.
Seamorg. Or
Simorg.
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 Yeah.
Simorg.
So I think the one thing though, because in my head I've always pronounced it Simorg or Simmerg.
That's the UK English, apparently.
Yeah.
Simmerg or Seymour.
Oh, is it the old Seamorg?
The Seamorg.
Seamorg. But no.
Morg.
I've always pronounced it Simmerg, and I think it's important to know though that they're not from. Well, we'll get into this later. They're not from the universe, the universe where the Simmerg is.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I could see it being like you've heard it in passing. Like if you had never heard of Jennifer Aniston and you thought her name was Jennifer Allison.
Yeah.
What?
Right.
Fair.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
no, that makes sense. For the sake of this podcast and for the sake of my sanity, I am going to pronounce it Simmerg or Simmerg because that is how my brain reads
That's
it.
fine.
I'm sure
No.
there will
And
be
to
so many
justify-
Reddit comments.
To justify that, the Simurg is it's a bird in Persian mythology, which
Oh,
knowing where Wildbow likes to get a lot of his names wouldn't surprise me if
No,
that's how he found
not
it.
at all.
Oh,
So
then that
Simurg
just
would
makes
be
it.
correct.
Simmerg. Okay, the Simmerg. Yeah, that's what we're gonna go with. Yep.
It hurts me,
Huzzah.
but
Wonderful.
I will concede.
We've
1 point,
discussed
Brockton Bay
spellings
Book.
and pronunciations for 7 minutes. This is good. It's great.
I'm so sorry.
We
This is the
warned
podcast
people.
that everybody has signed up for. They know what they're getting into it.
Do they? Do they though?
By now they should by now.
They should by now.
be
Yeah,
honest.
they should.
Anna,
by
how
now.
about those
if
summaries?
you've made it this long.
Right. You know what? This is a great time to jump in. So because most of our arcs are so broken up into like kind of sections-y, and this arc is very kind of one continuous little story thing, we're gonna just go chapter by chapter, and we're not gonna group anything up. So we're gonna start with chapter 1. We open on Krouse and his friends. They meet up, kind of learn about their dynamic, their games they play, and then all of a sudden, bam, the building gets transported.
Man, they all.
Well, we
suck.
don't know that at this point.
Well,
Yeah.
okay.
True.
Then bam, there's an earthquake.
Yeah,
Suddenly
yeah.
things are top
I mean,
secret.
we know now, but
We know.
at the time the characters did not know.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, this entire arc is a great example of writing writing like in the style of the character again, because as we've shown, like Trickster's power is, the whole switcheroo thing. And right off the bat, we get, him doing his little switcheroo in the group with him and Cody. And then also, like, thematically, they get switcherooed to another world. So, like, I appreciate the theme of switching places being not just an individual thing, but a thematic device as well that's going on.
Mhm.
Well, and it's the whole like his power is not just switching, but it's sort of this idea of replacement, and
Mm-hmm.
they are forced to replace. They're forced into a place where their world has been replaced with a new world, and their dynamic has been replaced with a new dynamic, and they have to figure out how to live in this. And they sort of replace their old identities with new ones as later they take on powers and things and become the travelers that we know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's wild. I do love this first arc though, because Krouse, Trickster, he's always been an ass, it's felt. And this just confirms it so much. Like, I don't like Cody either. I'm not saying that there's any justification to the way
Cody's
this guy
a piece of
behaves.
shit.
Yeah, Cody, I feel like it's the difference between somebody who's just like, you look at somebody and be like, man, you're kind of an asshole. Like, you're doing, like, you're not, like, I don't, like, sometimes I don't always mind, but you are an asshole, versus Cody, who's like, wow, you're just a real piece of crap, and I don't want to spend any more time around you.
Voted off the
Yeah.
team.
Yeah, I like that we had plenty of time to get to know the travelers as characters before this interlude. Because
Mhm.
if this was like the first chapter of the whole story, you would hate all of these people so much. You would feel sorry for like Jess and Noelle and maybe Oliver a little bit. And then the rest of them, you're like, you all suck. You're the worst people ever. What is wrong with the whole bunch of you?
Yeah. It's funny because I really like Krouse, and I've always really liked Trickster. And so this whole arc has only solidified that I really still like Krouse, still really like Trickster, and Cody's just a piece of shit. Like everything that Cody does. At one point, like he says something like, "Well, I care about Noelle. Like that's what I care about." Like he's just such a jerk, and I'm not surprised at all that they're all like, "Yeah, we're voting him off the team. Like off you go, goodbye." Like yeah, bye. I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
He's like the ultimate Reddit white knight person.
Oh no, we have so many Reddit listeners. We got to be really careful.
No, not Redditors in general. Redditors are great. They're fine. I've experienced some great karma on there and had some good times on Reddit. I mean, like the guy who's like browsing the incel forums and like, why can't I ever get a girl? Meanwhile, he hasn't showered in 5 weeks.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
That's
like,
not who I was thinking. I was thinking literally somebody just needlessly jumping into like the thing to defend someone,
wait,
like
and then
very
that
much-
part of it too. Yeah, exactly. That part of it too. Yeah.
I was about to say I'm not a nerd enough to understand what white knighting means. So
Oh boy.
Oh, you know what? I don't need to know.
No, it's not as bad as you think. It's just white knighting is, the girls at the bar, and then the white knight is the guy who steps up and is like, the lady said leave her alone.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah, no, that's
that's what I mean. That's Cody, not Redditors in
That
general.
tracks.
That
Yeah,
person.
okay, we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, man, I want to like Krouse so much because there's a lot of things that make sense that he, thinks through and then he does it. And, if he could just help himself for a second, like Cody's going to be a dickhead. We all know this. Let him do his dickhead thing. Like you don't need to do that extra dig. You really don't. And I get that that's his flaw.
I feel like he holds back quite a bit. There are plenty of times when he like thinks about it and then doesn't. So like I feel like he's shown a great amount of restraint.
He does,
thus
but there's
far.
clearly like him barging into the room when they're like, we're gonna break it to Cody, let us do that. He didn't need to go in that room. He really didn't. And he made that's
true.
Just that much harder. And it's little things like that where like, he doesn't even necessarily do it with ill intent sometimes, but he just makes it more difficult because he's got to throw himself in there and have his word. And it's so frustrating. Just like,
I
dude,
think the word is smug. He's very smug.
Yeah.
And I don't know that he does it always intentionally, but
Yeah.
he's the kind of person who's like, I'm better than you, and I know that I am, and I feel bad for you that you can't accept it. Sorry.
Yeah.
I would say I don't even think it's that. Like there is that, but I don't get the tone of voice that he's that much. That it's that. How to put it? Like I think he has resting smug face for sure. Like I don't think that he can go to neutral with his facial expressions and not have a quirk at the corner of his mouth that just makes you want to slap him.
I think
Yeah.
he's got what the doctors call main character syndrome, which is
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Which is ironic in this whole story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from what I remember, I think the Travelers were one of the experiments to find a character to write the world of Worm through. Because I think one of the original formats was not a person learning powers, but a group of people. And you're right, Krouse does have main character syndrome. He just feels the necessity to substitute himself into whatever's going on so that he can get the last word. He just has this compulsion to just constantly be irritating people by inserting himself into stuff. Otherwise, he'd be a decent human being.
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed his personality in this first chapter when he chooses to walk into the room when the group is deciding what to do just to piss Cody off, essentially.
Yeah.
That's what he's doing.
Was it to piss Cody off? Or was it just to say something? And it just has the byproduct of pissing Cody off.
True.
Because I doubt there's anything Krouse could have done that would have not pissed Cody off because Cody's just pissed off.
Yeah, good point. He just had to be the one to do it.
Yeah.
I think that we can find an interesting parallel here too between Krouse and Taylor, because we have two characters who usually, even if they won't admit it, they would say that they know better than other people around them.
Yeah.
They know the best thing for everybody around them. And whereas with Krouse, it becomes more about Noelle and focused solely on her. For Taylor, maybe it's a bit more broad. Maybe it's a bit wider, talking about the city or Dinah or however, whatever focus she has at the moment. But I think they're both characters who have a hard time looking at themselves and recognizing I might have a problem with thinking that I know better than literally everyone around me all the time.
Yeah.
Because I think we see in both of them, they just make decisions. They don't ask people.
Yeah.
They just decide, I'm going to do this. This is the right thing to do. And I'll make it work out later with people.
Yeah. I think Krouse goes into it knowingly, that he's going to irritate people. And sometimes he does that on purpose, whereas Taylor just does it and doesn't really think about the ruffling feathers part. And that blind kind of she doesn't have a shit-eating grin on her face. So when she does something, it's like people have to go, okay, why did she do this? Because she's got a neutral face put on. Whereas with Krouse, you assume it's because he's a piece of shit.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
And in a weird way, does that come back to the fact that maybe Krouse has had friends and has grown up in a group and had people around him as opposed to Taylor, who's been very solitary? Because I feel like that kind of shit-eating grin, the smirkiness, it comes from the attention. If you're not getting any attention, your I don't know, your response tends to shift. So if he is constantly getting affirmation for the things that he does, and people are like, you're such an asshole, but they clearly still hang out with him and enjoy him as part of the group dynamic. But Taylor doesn't necessarily have that to play off of because she's never the idea of being the class clown. Well, yeah, you have to be interesting in a class to be the class clown. Like, well, if you're constantly ignored and bullied and stuck in the back corner and everyone forgets that you're there, like, then you can't be the class clown. So, like, why would you, know to do the smirk face and know to, whatever. And so, like, even though they both have a very similar, like, idea of, hey, I know what's best, I'm making the right decision. Like, Krouse kind of has more of that, like, group mentality as opposed to Taylor, who's a little bit more solitary minded.
Krouse knows how to move socially, and
Yeah.
Taylor does not.
Does not even a little bit, poor thing.
Krouse is trying to make moves to his advantage socially,
Yeah.
and Taylor is trying to survive socially.
Yeah. Oh,
They're
yeah.
sort of like two
Or
sides of the
escape
same
even.
coin. Yeah, it's sort of two
Yeah.
sides of the same coin where Krouse is the extrovert and Taylor's the introvert. They both
Yeah.
think they know better. It's just that Taylor works better in the background and Krouse is better up front.
Yeah.
Until he's not, as
Well.
we see, kind of
As we
connected to
see.
the present.
Yeah. The thing I think we actually left off on, now that I remember, was talking about main characters and how I think Wild Bow actually wrote the Travelers, if I remember right, to explore this world
Yeah.
with a dynamic of a group of people who have pretty good powers figuring out how to operate as a group. It's something that he doesn't really work on till later in not this, but Ward, his other superhero work, is almost all about team dynamics, and also not Pact, but Twig. Twig is also a focus on um, essentially a Krouse character. Honestly, if he was with a group as well, and the group dynamics and how they shift and what goes on there.
Interesting.
So, and I personally really like it when he writes groups. I think his ability to manage dynamics and
Yeah.
dialogue between groups, especially in Twig later on when he's got people who know each other and have worked with each other, them like doing, a good cop, bad cop routine is, oh my goodness, it's like chocolate on paper. It's delicious.
Chocolate on paper.
And unfortunately, you have a dysfunctional group here, so it's not as satisfying to see them. And we also don't really get to see them work together. I think the only time we've gotten to see them at best is when they fought the wards with Weld, all the way back in like arc, what is that, 9?
Yeah.
Like, and you really don't get to see them do their, like, it
Yeah.
doesn't you don't feel the flow as much. You just know that they're better than the wards and they're just launching them into the stratosphere. But you don't feel that they are working as a team as well as they are just overpowering them with their individual abilities.
Well, and I think it's interesting too. We can talk about why they're a team, which I really like as a setup. That you have a group of super nerds who are likely to become professional esports gamers.
These losers, of course, they play League of Legends.
Which is basically what it is.
No
This is
wonder
not-
these people
It is
can't.
not League of Legends. I have to defend my fellow League of Legends.
Yeah.
Yeah, come
Well,
on.
You're
you're
right.
right, Jacob. League of Legends players are much worse than whatever these guys are.
Yeah, I was gonna say they would have killed each
Exactly.
other before the teleportation even happened. Like if they were in the same room. Goodness gracious!
No, I'm just kidding. I've only played League like twice, so I have no idea. But
The building gets teleported. Do you know how many monster cans would have fallen on Noelle and suffocated her?
Okay.
the only context I have for knowing how League players feel about League is after this is a side tangent too, so we can cut this out if need be. But there was a
Keep in all
Reddit
the
post shortly after Arcane came out that had like 30,000 karma, and it was just somebody saying, "You've seen the show Arcane, and you might think to yourself, I should try playing League of Legends. I've been playing League of Legends for 10 years. Don't do it."
I will say I loved Arcane, and I will never play League because I just is not the kind of game that I would ever want. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways.
If
I mean-
you want to
Yeah.
know what game they were playing, it's called Ransack. It was invented by Wildbow, a video game that he actually has a Google Doc that you can look up called Ransack Intro. And it's got an introduction. It's a 2 or 3 teams of 4 race to defeat an enemy overlord controlled by the enemy's 5th team member, which, if you look at the characters, the main one in the top left, which is, the red team, its overlord character is a giant tentacle monster with an eye.
Interesting.
And it's like a big slideshow thing for it's like 31 pages, 31 slides
Oh,
detailing
bless.
what
Wildbow,
the game would kind
bless
of
your
look like.
autism.
It is supposed to be a design little notes for making a video game. And it actually, sounds kind of fun. Basically,
so
your
cool.
overlord makes a dungeon on the fly while and populates it with traps and monsters while your party goes through the other people's dungeons and, in defeating stuff, makes money so that you can continue to build up your dungeon. And then eventually you make it to the dungeon boss, which is the overlord, and then you have to fight them, and defeat them.
What a
Honestly,
writer
that
thing
sounds
to do.
really fun.
It does sound pretty fun. I want to play it.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
It's such a writer thing to do, to be like, hey, so I need my characters for like 1/3 of a chapter to be playing a video game. I'm going to make the entire video game and have a whole separate document just for this. Like, okay.
Yeah. It's kind of like what's that one game where if you kill the people, Crawl? Yeah, it's Crawl, I think, where you play the monsters and you're trying to kill the one hero.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I know the one you're talking
It's like
about.
that, but if you had multiple teams doing that at the same time, that'd be fun.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Any more thoughts on chapter 1 before we move on to chapter 2?
Let's see. Oof, friend group trying something.
I will say they kind of skim over it, but what a traumatizing moment when just to find out that one of them's immediately dead, right?
Yeah.
So because we know these characters, right? We go into this arc, this whole section, thinking, okay, we know who Oliver is. We've heard of him. We've heard of Jess, Marissa, like Luke. Like we know those names. We've heard them mentioned before.
Did we hear Marissa or did we hear Mars?
Mars. I think we've heard Mars, but they call her Mars Marissa pretty quick, so we know who they're talking about. So what's interesting to me is we immediately go in knowing, okay, Chris and Cody. Those are 2 names. We don't know who they are. And then Chris just gets offed immediately. Yeah, Chris gets offed immediately. In the most horrible way, too, it sounds like getting your head split open by a bookshelf.
Oh, gosh.
Oof.
Yeah. So, just kind of an interesting immediate dynamic. And of course, the urgency, Noelle is hurt. They don't know what's wrong. She's unconscious. The building is sideways, so they're like sliding down the side of the building.
Yeah.
It's snowing. It's awful. Like this, I remember this being like one of the most awful arcs just to read environmentally, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you've got that scream that they start talking about, like they can hear the
song
scream
in their head. Yeah.
Just the quiet.
Well, it's funny that you said that, Nick, about the names, because honestly, other than Noelle, I don't remember anybody's names or didn't remember anybody's names. So going into this whole arc was me being like, shit, I wonder, like, I pretty quickly, I guess, like, okay, I'm pretty sure Krouse is Trickster, but I'm not positive.
Yeah, and it's tough because in my head, I'm thinking like, and then there's Bitch Boy, and then I realize that applies to basically everyone in the group. And I'm like, fuck.
Well, I mean, it's also the numbers game. Like in your head, you're counting like, okay, how many Traveler members are there? Okay, and how many people are here? Like, shit, fuck. Like, I don't, like someone's missing, like something's missing, like I'm missing something. Am I not remembering it correctly? But like, it's interesting because this entire game of this arc was like, okay, wait, who's who? Who else is gonna die that I'm not like expecting?
Well, I think it might have been too this time the benefit of the second read, because this is one of the arcs that I remember very vividly from my first read. Not again all the details specifically, but there's a lot of stuff in here that I'm like, yeah. Like I was reading it and going, oh yeah, I remember that scene. Like it all just immediately was coming back to me. So that might be part of it too. is just the benefit of the second read, just kind of knowing, okay, I know who you guys are. But even that, I still forgot who Cody was and what happened to him. So
It's cool. Hannah has a brain of a goldfish. It's fine.
I loved the early kind of planting to, because obviously reading this for the first time, don't really realize that they are not from Earth Bet.
Right.
And so like the language that Wildbow uses, like why is she here? All this kind of stuff. It's really well written in the sense that like you're not clued into the fact that they are not where they're supposed to be right away, which is well done. That reveal is a gut punch, and we'll get there.
For sure.
yeah, absolutely.
I'll go ahead and move on to chapter 2 then, if y'all are
Do
ready.
it.
For it.
Yeah, so the group dislikes the Simurgh's choice of music in their heads. They're climbing through the building to try and get out. And the Simurgh dumps a bunch of monsters onto the city as she and Scion fight in the sky over the city.
I love the imagery that Wildbow paints for us of how the Simurgh fights. It is like graceful and elegant, and beyond that, it's like perfect because she is a precog. So she's like, in my mind, it's the epitome of how the Jedi should be fighting when you watch Star Wars. It's like perfectly predicting your opponent's movements.
I like it.
And just ever so subtly shifting so that you don't get hit by something. It's really graceful, really fun to read. You get a really neat image of the way she fights Scion there.
Well, except not Scion, because Scion, for some reason, her powers don't work against Scion, but it is still, with the other heroes especially, this very graceful.
Oh, true.
And,
You're right.
And yeah, but she is a planner, right? You see that she is all of the Endbringers have felt. I don't know. The other two they are smart, and we see that they are intelligent, like with Leviathan going for a very particular spot. But I don't know. They don't feel the same as the Simurgh for some reason. In that sense too, like you're saying, Jacob, where she is predicting moves. She's creating a copy of herself to distract Scion since she can't really deal with him. She's, creating this portal to bring monsters from other universes, which is how, the travelers got there, was through this portal.
Yeah. And it's not just that she's making the portal out of nothing. She's stumbled into the original portal maker for the Earth Aleph Bet portal that started all this. She's broken into Haywire's portal, like his tinker layer, and is just ripping stuff out of there to make weapons.
Yeah. And then like depositing it over the city, like opening up all of these crazy.
Yeah.
Which is like wild. You said, Jacob, is really cool.
Yeah, you get the sense that she is very intentional in what she's doing. Like you get that with Leviathan too, but it's more of a general sense of destruction. Where like with the Simurgh, like you can tell she's constructing something. She's building something specific for a specific purpose.
She's more calculating.
Yeah, exactly.
We kind of saw that in that brief interlude with Amy in Panacea in the birdcage, where she tries to get a message to Dragon.
Yes.
The Simurgh sees it,
right?
Intercepts it, redirects it, changes it, and then it doesn't get to Dragon.
Gets hidden away.
Yeah. So we kind of see that a little bit already, but seeing it more in combat now. Yeah.
We interrupt our scheduled program to bring you a word from our sponsor, Zencastr, a one-stop shop for all your podcasting needs. When we first started this podcast, we knew we needed a service that would let us record remotely. After doing some research, Zencastr was the obvious choice. We started using Zencastr and never looked back. It's super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. All you do is log in, invite people to join your room, and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. You can record studio-quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. You can rest easy even if you have an unstable connection, knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality. We do all our recording in Zencastr, and when the episode is ready, we can distribute it to all major podcast platforms. Zencastr has made podcasting so much easier with its all-in-one podcasting platform and tools. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code BrocktonbaybC, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. That's zencastr.com/pricing and use our code BrocktonbaybC. And now back to our scheduled programming.
Bro, who's been exposed too long. And, he's got the old armband on. And it just, blows up Battle Royale style.
Oh, yeah.
Now, my question is, Dragon made those, right?
That is the implication.
Yes, so.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but Dragon's not allowed to do that, right?
I mean, I would imagine that there's so many safeguards in place and like so many other things that had to be approved specifically because it's the Simurgh. And that it's not just like Dragon being like, okay, cool, I'm going to hit this button and like take somebody out. Like it's probably a lot more complex than that.
Yeah.
It's not all Dragon tech. It's probably Dragon tech plus other stuff.
Because I know she's got, when she makes her flight of 9 that gets absolutely dismantled against the Undersiders. Like, there was a lot of deadly components on there that were only authorized for use against, like fully authorized for use against the Slaughterhouse 9. And because of how dangerous they were, that's how Taylor ultimately escapes because of that. However, it just makes me think, like, did she either get special permission for that, or is there somebody who is just in the building, with Dragon, where she's like, all right, and he's like, can I press the button? And she's like, I'm not allowed to say that. He's like, I'm pressing the button. And then literally you just have a dude whose job is to like press the red button when it lights up. He doesn't even have a camera. He has to do it.
It's every time she goes to hit the button, it has that like, I am not a robot, and she has to like slide her wheelie chair over, let somebody else click it.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's
How
some
many
PRT
fire
guy,
hydrants are there?
Can you click this little box right here for me? Thanks, David.
I think, I don't know. I wonder with Dragon's programming if it's more of a, whatever her blocks are, only prevent her from certain things. But maybe there's kind of a built-in function that just says, if Endbringer, do whatever is necessary, right?
Override all functions.
Yeah,
Well,
override all functions.
What if it's if PRT, if Protectorate, then override? Because like the armbands are created for the Protectorate and the PRT and all the capes to come together and work together against Endbringer. So like maybe it has more to do with like the rules that are set in place, like who is in charge of you and who's given you permission to put these things in place, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It could also very well be that Dragon didn't design these armbands. Like, we know she designed the ones for Leviathan's fight, but that was in Legion with Armsmaster, and they were their whole system. So it's very possible that at this point in the story, she's just the AI. Yeah. Well, they don't know she's an AI, but she's just the sort of tinker that's helping distribute everything, but another tinker.
Yeah,
made
except
the
she was
armbands.
teaming up with Bakuda for this one, apparently.
Yeah.
Just like, imagine you're that hero and you didn't know that there was a bomb in the armband. You just hear like
they all knew though.
They probably knew going into this, but imagine you're just sitting there and you just hear like the beeping increasing. You're like, Dragon, what's that noise? Like,
Dragon?
Any last words to your family? Dragon, you motherfucker.
So cold. The whole sorry, it's too late. We'll tell your wife that you fought well. Like, God, it's brutal.
What were his last words? Playing last words. Dragon, you motherfucker.
No.
Yeah, basically.
Wait.
God. Yeah, I mean, that's
Went
the
out
thing,
like
though.
a bitch.
Okay, so what's interesting to me, though, about this, and I don't know that I would call it an inconsistency necessarily, but just that Dragon and the other heroes are willing to literally kill themselves if they've been around the Simurgh too long, and they're likely to die. This hero, not only was he around too long, but he couldn't escape, and he was probably going to die anyway. So they kill him. But they don't do that with just average civilians. It's not like after they beat the Simurgh, they go through town and just kill everybody they find. Yes, there's a quarantine, but I don't know. It just feels like such different drastic measures. I guess maybe the idea is it's kind of hard to quarantine a superhero. So
yeah. And it's the idea of I'm going to just take a wild guess, say that you're not allowed to own a firearm after you get Simurghed. Like the capacity for damage is so much higher if Legend got Simurghed,
Sure.
Right.
He's just taken, or, we'll take Purity, because we've seen Purity level a city before. Imagine Purity was doing that with some really ill intent, really do a couple 100,000 people worth of damage, as opposed to, one dude decides to drive his car into a restaurant. It's terrible, but it's not Purity leveling a city terrible.
Sure. I guess that makes sense too.
Does it also maybe have to do with vicinity? Because you're fighting her, you're maybe a little bit closer to her, as opposed to the poor people on the ground that are just stuck in the city.
That could be true.
Could be true as well. Yeah.
I would guess too. I would bet that, and this is a total guess because as the case, my mind escapes me for so much of the story. But I would guess too that the Simurgh probably targets capes more than civilians.
Probably.
So that I bet over time they've noticed that the effect is more prominent amongst capes than just average people.
And probably targets people that are going to trigger during an event because of the whole precog thing. And then, if you're doing the whole 10-month quarantine that comes afterwards, you have to go through so much psychological therapy that they would have found out if you had triggered and you had a power. So then, then they can single you out and deal with that. But the idea that, if she knows that you're going to be a cape or you are a cape, I'm going to mess with those people more because they have a higher capacity of, not higher capacity, but higher possibility of falling into the plan of, that I'm orchestrating.
They have a higher chance of contracting the STDs.
I was going to say thank you, but that's not.
The Simurgh transferred diseases.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
I think they call it Simurgh transfer
No.
something else now.
No.
I couldn't come up with something with I. And
No, that's fine.
enough.
Appreciate the effort.
That being said, what the Simurgh does do to you, though, we finally see in Arc 3, if we want to move on to that.
Oh, yeah. Chapter 3, not Arc 3.
What'd that Simurgh do?
Yeah, so the group ends up hunkering down, and tempers flare up between Krouse and Cody. They're just trying to, ascertain everybody's wounds and figure everything out. And Krouse kind of comes to the realization of what's going on where they are, kills a bird, and they realize that they're on Earthbet, and they realize kind of the gravity of the Simurgh situation.
Speaking of gravity of the situation, Simurgh, first off, would. Second, I can fix her.
No.
I think she's thinking that she can fix you.
Yeah, fix you into a grave.
Is not the ultimate Dommy Mommy move mind control?
My God.
True. Yeah.
Brockton Bays. Michael, can we hit that real quick? I know you got the music.
All right.
You didn't know.
Our new segment, Brockton Bays. Here's the new theme.
Hit it. Now, without too much spoilers, we've heard about the three Endbringers, Leviathan, Behemoth, and Simurgh. Marry, fuck, kill.
Oh, man.
You start.
I'm marrying Behemoth.
You're marrying Behemoth?
Yeah.
Interesting choice.
Yeah, not what I would have picked.
I
think
I
he
think
looks
I
so
would.
cuddly.
He is warm, definitely warm.
So warm.
I think I'm marrying Simurg, fucking Leviathan, killing Behemoth.
I mean, I think honestly, with that tail, Leviathan's gonna be fucking you.
Yeah.
You know,
Uh-huh.
I would have switched that up.
go on. Elaborate.
Fuck the Simurg. Marry Leviathan. And kill Behemoth. I also don't remember much about
Hold
Behemoth.
on.
So.
Rule 34.
No, I don't need that. I don't need that. No, thank you. Yeah, no, yeah.
Did you say Rule 34 Behemoth?
Oh, no.
I can't.
Do you think Leviathan is
You know what? I didn't even need the Rule
kinetic?
34 version.
Oh no! Ow!
What did you say, Jacob?
I said, I wonder if Leviathan is like a lube kinetic.
That's okay. That's what I was going. That's what I was going with. I think.
That's what I thought you said. That's what I thought you said.
That's great. I'm so glad we reiterated that. I've never felt
just
more
gloss over
close
that.
to this
That's
group.
okay.
And ever.
I'll make it worse. The
No.
Bahusi, the Levoski, and the Smurfs.
No, please.
I will say, of all three of those,
person.
I feel like the Samusi definitely rolls off the tongue the best.
Yeah.
What that Endbringer seat.
No, I don't.
I love a good end bussy.
Oh no.
This concludes our segment, the
Yeah.
Brockton Bay.
Deleting the theme song. We're never having another one. That's it. That's it. Theme song over.
There's not a
Deleting.
flash in the pan, Michael. There's
Deleting
quality
the
right
theme
there.
song.
This is people have been bitching for way too long about all the other heroes and villains and what kind of shipping. We're the only ones asking the real questions here. I point you to the why fucking King Ghidorah is not gay YouTube video for more context.
God.
All of you go look that up.
Okay.
Join us next time on the Brockton Bays, where we discussed Noelle, thick queen or not.
Oh no. Lord have mercy.
All
Anyway,
right.
back to our regular scheduled
So,
programming.
okay,
Thank
chapter 3.
Chapter 3, yeah.
Man, finally seeing that bird just smashing its head.
Oh, that was kind of like I said, because it feels like this is my first read through because there's so much I don't remember. I didn't remember everything with the Simurg, like what she can do. And so seeing this bird just bash its head over and over and over, you kind of like get this like moment of like, you feel the hair on the back of your neck stand up and it's like, oh shit. Oh, we are fucked, aren't we? We are fucked.
Yeah.
Like it's that honestly, it's if you guys have seen the Chernobyl show, it's kind of like that. It's like that moment where like you suddenly realize that like we're in a lot deeper than we ever thought we were. And what's worse is that like just by being here, just by breathing the air of this space, like nothing is ever going to go back to normal. Like we have come too far, you know? Like, oh no.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen Chernobyl, but I can imagine knowing the history.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. It's
Yeah, Nick, if you want to watch a
show.
horror movie with no monsters in it,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Holy cow.
It feels like it was shot like a horror show. It was so
Honestly,
well done.
it's a pretty good comparison tone-wise to this whole arc. Very similar sort of really eerie feeling.
yeah. Could we bring Craig Mazin just to do this episode?
Yeah, just bring him in. Yeah.
Yeah, quick aside for the dissecting worm. Jacob,
Dissecting worm.
you know, a quick aside here. Craig Mazin, I think we tap him for this episode. I think he'd be great at it.
Absolutely. Just give him a blank check. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good sidebar. Anyway, Brockton Bay Book Club.
Moving on. Where
Hashtag
are we
always
in?
be plugging.
That's right.
Chapter, we're in.
Oh.
Well, chapter 3, I guess.
I stay again. Cody and Krouse
agree.
would be almost fine if they would just stop bringing up weird shit like who dated who first.
Yeah, gosh, that feels like
It was so weird.
It feels like such a stupid thing from Cody. Like, are we really gonna talk about this now? Like, bro, you have got to get over that.
Let
Like,
it go.
you have got to move on. The fact that this is still like it is the center. It is the core of your issues. And like it's been a while.
Read the
You've got to
room.
move on.
Read
Well,
the,
I'm trying
read the
to,
earth.
as always, with the way I think, I try to find the angle where, you kind of try to empathize with the worst characters. And for Cody, I'm honestly having a harder time empathizing with him
Yeah,
than
he's
with
such a
some of
dick.
the less human characters. Like, I'm like, no. Like Lung, I kind of get his vibe. Like, I get his thing. But man, Cody, it is. I don't know. I think my only guess for Cody, and this is like way out there out of left field. My only guess for Cody is that he's a middle child
Oh, bless.
who has never gotten anything without his siblings getting it too, right? He's the kid who, he's experienced like, your mom says like, okay, when you're 10, you can finally watch that movie you've been wanting to. Oh, but your little sister who's 8, she'll get to watch it too because, we don't want to leave her out. And that's just his entire life, right?
Mm.
And so when Krouse comes in and takes everything from him, in his mind, of course, his perverted mind, it feels like that all over again. That's the only thing
Yeah.
I can get maybe from Cody to try to sympathize with him.
Right.
But no, yeah, he's still just ultimately, and of course it could be the Simurg messing with him too.
I was about to say, like, that's all amped up with the Simurg as well. Like, she's cranking all the dials in your head, like up to 11, to amp up all of those feelings that might push you right over the edge. But it's still, it feels like it. I mean, it makes sense for this to be the thing that he's hyper fixating on, like that this is the thing that the Simurg can, use to hyper fixate on. But like, he's so whiny.
Let me tell you right now, if nobody else was there, the amount of sexual insecurity he brought along from Madison, Wisconsin, he would find whatever Earth Bets Andrew Tate was and start following that TikTok account like right away. That's how the simmer gets you. That's how
I
the
will
simmer
say
gets
too, there's kind of this funny thing where we're told that Oliver is really whiny, but we never
Oliver
see
is
that.
not. No,
Cody.
Oliver is not whiny.
Yeah, it's almost like we only believe that Oliver is whiny and weak and like a simpering guy only because Krouse tells us. But really, Oliver just never does anything. He's just kind of there.
He's just quiet.
He's just there, yeah.
Yeah, and like
he's just happy to be here.
Right. And in like a moment of panic, like I understand not wanting to be the one to like step up and lead the group, which Krouse obviously, steps up and kind of does. And like the thing that is that like other than Cody, no one really fights him on that. Like no one really like says like, hey, now you're not our leader. Like we should all be democratic about it. Like, no, like everyone's kind of like, well, okay. They get behind it because it's like, well, yeah, if you're in a position where things are kind of in crisis mode, like you do need someone to step up and make decisions. So like the fact that Krouse does it, like good on him, but also like arrogant little bitch, but okay. And then Cody, he's fighting back, but he's not fighting back because, he's like, well, I disagree with the choices that you've made. He's fighting back because it's Krouse. Like he's only mad because Krouse is the one that's kind of stepped into this position. Like that's his only reasoning. If it was anybody else making the same decisions, he probably wouldn't have a problem with it. Like he would say it makes sense. But because it's Krouse, he's going to get all up and bitchy about it.
Mm-hmm. And he sucks.
Yeah.
I just really don't like him. It's his like you can be mad and be upset about it, but like what is your fucking motivation, bro? Like is your motivation to like save the group and you don't feel like someone has the group's best interest in mind? Like sure, that's a valid reason. Like what is your valid reason? You don't have one? Yeah, that's what I thought. Sit down.
Yeah.
You told him.
Right.
And Oliver's basically Theo, but with like a little more oomph. Not much, but like a little.
But no, you tell it. No, not a chance. Not a chance. Oliver is standing up to Jack.
No.
Slash.
Yeah,
you
no.
just don't like
Hear me
Theo.
out. Hear me out. No. Hear me out. Because I agree with you. stone cold motherfucker when it comes to like actually the nitty gritty. But I think in the everyday, like Oliver's a little bit more personable because I feel like he gets out more and hangs out with people. I don't think Theo does. I think
We've
Theo's
also
just
only
around a
seen
bunch of
Theo-
adults.
We've also
And
only
he
seen
just-
Theo as like a young child.
Yeah,
mean-
we've
No,
interacted with
Theo's
him
like 14.
twice.
I thought he was like 11 when he confronted Jack, but maybe not.
No, he's like 14 years old.
Oh.
And because he's babysitting. And then Oliver's only what? Like 16 maybe?
I imagine that they were all kind of like 16
Yeah.
age. Yeah.
I literally think the difference between them, because they both even talk about like they've kind of had a a forward parent. I don't know what I'm thinking of. Like a parent who's got an
forward?
overwhelming personality, kind
Oh.
of work
Like an overbearing parent?
an overbearing parent, maybe. No, that's not the right word, but just an ego driven parent who's worked the personality out of them in one way or another.
Yeah. Because that was Oliver who had said like his mom was just like really crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's so much that it kind of, just mutes him. And for Theo, he doesn't want to be like his dad, and Purity sure as hell doesn't want him to be like his dad, and his mom didn't want to be like his dad. So like he's basically had to everything kind of whittle the machismo out of him. So he just lacks, all the passion stuff. So I think they're very similar. I just think that Oliver's a bit more social because he has a group of friends, and Theo does not. Now, like you said, I think that Theo, stone cold motherfucker, but you I kill. I don't, Oliver's not doing that in a million years.
Yeah. Well, I guess more for me, the point is like, I look back over this arc, and if you were to ask me, name one thing that Oliver says or does, I can't.
Just at the end when he's like, "I'll do it. I'll take half the vial.
That's how in the background he is.
Yeah, let me
Yeah,
take
yeah.
half of the burden.
I'll do it."
Yeah, that's the only difference for the two with me. Whereas I feel like I can name, and obviously this comes up because he comes up later, maybe, but I can name stuff that Theo said and did in his one chapter. I guess maybe he was more the focal point, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, you get the Purity arc, or you get the Purity chapter, and then you get his chapter. So, but those are both like, he's got little things to do in those, and it's kind of a small cast. This is a big cast of characters where your main focus is literally everybody except for Luke, kind of, and Oliver, and Jess. Like your main personalities are Noelle, a little bit of Jess, a little bit of Luke, but mostly Cody and Krouse. So you're
Yeah, of
always
course.
focused on what they're doing. Oliver could say something, but it doesn't matter because, like,
I think it helps too, because as
Just
you're
doesn't.
reading this, you're kind of piecing together who each of the travelers are back in the present day. Like Krouse is easy to figure out, Noelle, obviously. And then you can piece together Jess, Marissa, and Luke pretty quickly. But like Oliver doesn't, he's mentioned once or twice offhand, and we don't know what his powers are or anything like that. He's just sort of there. So it's also kind of just, he has way less to do with the story at present. So we just kind of, punt him onto the side where he belongs.
Yeah. My biggest note, especially for this chapter, is God, this whole team is filled with little bitches. And I stand by my statement before, if I could line all of them, but Mars up in a line and just run through and slap all of them, I'd do it. And then I'd turn around and slap Cody and Krouse twice.
That's valid. That's valid.
Let's keep cruising onto chapter 4.
Okie doke. Chapter 4, the music or the screaming in their heads begins to amp up, and we start seeing little flashbacks and memories. Krouse fights off a few left of the city, or perhaps dropped in the city, and finds a mysterious briefcase.
Okay, this is the second time I've read this arc, and both times I think my mind just mentally cruises past, where the hell did he find the briefcase? Why? What?
Literally anywhere.
I don't
They just-
remember.
Cauldron leaves this shit
Like-
everywhere.
Oh, wait,
They have no OPSEC whatsoever.
Wait.
They just will throw briefcases left and right out of portals. You could
I was
find
gonna
one
say
of these on
portals.
us.
Yeah.
Find it
No,
on a
it's-
city street. They're just literally anywhere. Go pick one up off, any
Doesn't it-
city corner.
Doesn't it come out of a portal because the Simurgh is opening up all these different ones that connect back through to what's his face's research stuff, and there's just stuff everywhere. And one of the
Haywire's
things, Haywire.
place.
And one of
But
them
we
happens to be this
also-
briefcase that has all of these files of powers in it.
Yes.
Is that right? Right?
Not, I wouldn't say that because we know the vials come from Cauldron. We also see a bunch of Case 53s. So maybe
So
those are all
something opens somewhere.
getting opened at the same
So
spot.
Maybe the Simurgh opened a portal to one of Cauldron's labs, essentially, and dumped a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, and just shook that thing out.
Okay. But like he finds the briefcase because it's fallen out of a portal.
Every time I read past that part, and I'm like, wait a minute, was this just lying like on a park bench?
On the sidewalk.
Yeah, I'll be honest. The thing that I glaze over every time I read this is the Case 53s. I just, for some reason, my mind slides right over them, kind of like Imp. And this time I tried to focus in on them, and I mistook them for 3 other Case 53s that I know about because they're remarkably similar. And I wouldn't, I don't know if it's true, but I wouldn't put it past Wildbow having written these before and then writing different characters of similar build and description, but with different personalities later on. Not even different personalities. Matryoshka is very similar to another character that we will run into.
I was about to say Matryoshka. Like I've said, I don't remember much, but I do remember the Ribbon Girl.
It's not the Ribbon Girl. It's not who you're thinking.
Is it really not?
It's not.
That is so funny.
We'll
sure?
get to that.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Yeah, I know who you're thinking
Michael,
of.
note that for later, for when we can pull this back up and tell
Okay.
Alan
No,
that he's
we'll talk
wrong.
about it when we get to them because it's coming up really soon.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about it because, like I said, I think at least 2 of these I instantly was like, oh, that's this character and this character.
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh, wait, no, they have different names and they are completely different characters. Oh,
Okay,
all right.
but how much time? It's what, like 2 years has passed though since this whole incident, and then our current timeline of Taylor and all of them in Brockton Bay.
I've looked it up. They're not the same characters.
Motherfucker. Wildbow.
I know.
Wildbow, what are you doing?
That's why I think he
Tricking all of us.
just a guess. I think he rewrote characters, but he already liked those kind of abilities and skill sets. So
They kept him. That makes sense. I mean, like you write somebody in because you need them for that scene, and then you go, "Oh, that was really cool. I want to bring them back."
Yep.
yeah.
I was looking at it. All that we know is where he found it is Krouse comes along a laboratory. There's a pile of rubble. He sees a lab. We don't know what it is. It seems like it was in the city already, not teleported there.
Oh, okay.
It seems like. But he climbs up pile of rubble. He's looking for a first aid kit. There's empty test tubes, glass vials, canisters without contents, lots of paperwork, and then he finds the metal briefcase within. Beneath the desk, within a few feet of a dead man's hand. So, all we know is that it was a lab. It seems like it was already in the city, but I guess it's possible that the Simurgh teleported it there.
Also, if we want some details on these people, Matryoshka, our ribbon girl here, has the ability to unfold herself into ribbons and consume others, taking on a share of their memories and traits, simultaneously diluting herself. And she can do this multiple times at the cost of her own memories and traits, with each multiple people digested.
Interesting.
And potentially she can slowly actually digest them into herself as well. Which maybe changes her personality. I don't know.
Interesting.
So
weird.
Because she even says take more. This is I can't. I will lose myself. I'm begging you.
Interesting. I like that.
Creepy.
What an interesting character. And then we have Guiris, who all we know has like a prison uniform on, which, has the super strength that can reflect back onto an attacker, but only if, she can see them. And then who was the other one? That scythe person, which, probably the most like, I don't know, alien. Agisa. With the scythes on the end of the limbs.
Moving on.
All right.
Also, Earth Aleph has superheroes to confirm, but they're all losers.
Do they?
Yeah, they mentioned like, oh, we've got a couple of our heroes, but they're like literally your goofy like Silver Age comics.
Oh, that's funny.
Like how many people also like go out in costume and pretend to be superheroes because they're like, oh yeah, because Earth Bet has heroes. Like, what if we got them here too? Like, okay, not to remind us all of our terrible youths, but like when I was in middle school, I used to like pretend that I'd gotten bitten by a vampire and wear sunglasses and long sleeves and be like, I can't come out into the sun. And I would wear like one glove because I was so cool. But like we've all had those moments where we're
so
like,
brave of you.
I'm just so. This is a safe space. We're all fucking nerds. Alan, you cannot tell me that we are not all a bunch of nerds sitting here talking about superheroes. And we made a whole fucking podcast just so we could talk about one book.
Completely different. This is literature.
This
is high academia.
My point being is that like we've all had moments where we've been like, oh yeah, I'm really into whatever this is, and I'm gonna like totally pretend to be that. Like there's gotta be a ton of people that just like pretend that they've gotten powers and then like function in Earth Aleph, but with this like, oh yeah, guys, yeah, I totally got powers, guys. Oh yeah. It's like, no, you didn't. Like, Jeff, sit down. Like, you did not get powers. And he's like, oh yeah, I know, I totally did. You guys just wait and see. We'll lift this car.
I can turn invisible, but only when people aren't looking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like, yeah. So like, are we sure that Earth Aleph has superheroes that are shitty, or that they have shitty people pretending to be superheroes?
Bad cosplayers.
Yeah, bad cosplayers.
Vigilantes.
Yeah. Alan, can you confirm?
Confirm that they just have all we know is that they just have way less superheroes and they're kind of losers.
Okay, so unconfirmed
not
whether
helpful.
they're just bad cosplayers.
That could be.
They're not. They have powers. We confirm that they have powers. They just suck. Jess is kind of a nerd about this kind of stuff. And she was like, yeah, they're nothing like ours.
Interesting.
Like ours. Like ours. Cosplayers, am I right?
Oh my gosh.
The worst. Almost worse than Redditors.
Ah. Hey.
Thank goodness there aren't cosplaying Redditors, because
I was about to say, like,
this is why we keep Earth Aleph and
Redditor you on,
Earth
my man?
Bet, we keep them separate. Because if they ever,
we love trashing our audience.
Does it?
I do. Here's the thing. I got a lot of karma on Reddit. I'm talking about myself.
We are the audience. We go to Ren fairs. We go to Ren fairs. We
cosplay stuff on Reddit before. Reddit. I gotta say, so, we've all had our moments. Anyways,
what happened?
Yeah.
So Simmer exposure. We finally get to talk about that. And now that I've read a little bit more in my life, because I love the concept of, it's like sending a rocket, or nuclear missile into the future, basically. It's things that happen now. The Simmerg's attacks are all about the end game. And it reminded me a lot of the Cathay from the King Killer series. So Patrick Rothfuss's Name of the Wind, I think it's in the second book. There is a Fae tree that is usually guarded by the Fae to keep people just anywhere away from it. But if you interact with it in any way, shape, or form, these evil trees called the Cathay will basically ruin everything. Like, they're trees, they can't move, but if they can talk to you, they can send you like an arrow out into the world to ruin shit.
Hmm.
You know, and it very much feels like the Simurgh. Like all it
Mhm.
takes is exposure, and then you're
Interesting.
compromised. You are potentially a weapon.
Like a bunch of
Yeah.
sleeper agents.
I mean, it's smart. Yeah, it's just a bunch of sleeper. Like, it's very smart because, like, when you have an attack like that, and especially the very first one where you have no idea what kind of cause and effect is going to happen, and then like, oh yeah, just wait a year, wait 2 years, wait a couple months, and you'll see. Like, the people that were there at Ground Zero, like they start malfunctioning.
How terrifying that first encounter with
Yeah.
the Simurgh must have been.
Ugh,
I mean, all of the
gosh.
Endbringers really, but like, just
Yeah.
horrific.
Yeah, because they're like, what the heck is this? Which one was the first
Behemoth
one? The
was
Simurgh
first.
was the
Mhm.
Behemoth was 1st.
Mhm.
Okay,
Simurgh was third, I believe.
gotcha.
Leviathan was second. They kind of went in order of, I guess I would say maybe complexity.
That makes sense. That makes
in the
sense.
sense that it feels like, although Leviathan is also a force of natural disaster, his attacks feel more planned, maybe like more like precision strikes. Right, the Behemoth is just it's like the difference between an earthquake and a precision strike
Mhm.
missile, where it
Yeah,
feels like Behemoth is just pure destruction. Leviathan, though, is that precise attack, hitting weak areas, sinking islands, right? And then the Simurgh is even more difficult to deal with because it's so mysterious and so complex in how it affects people.
yeah. Oof.
Didn't they first like assume that she was like Scion?
Yeah, they do say that.
Yeah, because
Right.
she had a humanoid appearance, unlike the other two, which are like, you know,
Yeah.
clearly Godzilla and another one. All of the Godzilla has left my brain, sadly. So I need to, you know, not King Ghidorah. I'll figure out which the spiky turtle one was. But
Bowser.
get the fuck out of here!
Jinx.
You
I love
absolute
it. I love it.
That is, I can't believe you would speak those words here. No, but yeah, the Simurgh, you know, has this humanoid appearance, so they're like, oh, maybe she'll communicate with us, and then you know, she starts singing, and they're like, oh, this can only go well.
Yeah.
I did at one point in time think about getting a, you know, because I have my tattoos and I really like them. And there are always a plethora of good tattoos in the Wild Bow universes. And I thought, man, if I got hand tattoos, you know, I'd do the cauldron symbol on one. Yeah, I'd get the Manton special, you know, the cauldron symbol on one, the swan marking you as a Simurgh, like affected person on the other. And, you know, then you just wait to see if there are any true Wild Bow fans in the room. By the way, they just actively avoid you like the plague. They just take one look at that hand and they're like, and I need to leave.
That would work. It would work on me.
Yeah.
I am not getting on a plane with
I would
that
I would turn
guy.
around.
That guy is a flight risk.
Yeah, also, I think, Alan, I think you did jump us into the next chapter, chapter
Perfect.
5. But that's fine.
Oh, I'm
Uh,
sorry.
No, that's okay. That's where we basically where the group gets together. They're scavenging for food. Jess and Krouse, because the TV's working now, reveal to the group what's really going on. Everybody kind of realizes that he's been keeping it from them. We get a little bit more info about the Simurgh. We kind of understand the weight of it all, as you've said. And the Simurgh stops screaming in their heads. Do we want to keep talking about this, or I can just go on to the next chapter?
I would say if we just go
talk about it.
one moment for our Taylor.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just a pause for our Taylor.
Our Taylor?
Rest in peace.
Oh,
Yeah, our
our-
Taylor. Rest in peace. We do have a confirmation. Finally, mark this time down, Michael.
Okay.
9/11 did
Oh.
happen in Earth Aleph.
That's true.
It did.
Yes. They
The moment
mentioned
he
that.
said it, like first episode, I was like,
Oh my gosh. What a payoff, though. What a payoff. Shout
Uh,
out to our boy.
Yeah.
I've been holding on to that one.
Yeah.
It's hurt for a while.
What was instead of 9/11? Was it Leviathan?
Yeah,
Yes.
just Endbringers.
Yeah,
It's
just
like,
Endbringers.
they got
Endbringers.
Endbringers. We got 9/11. It's like same. It's just,
It's not at all the same.
Okay.
well, we'll agree to disagree.
Okay. All right. Well.
Never
Okay.
forget.
Yeah. So. Yep.
I mean, we've got bad superheroes in our universe, We've got discount Tony Stark, Elon Musk,
Oh no. Yeah.
at least according to
Oh.
some people.
Yeah.
Jeez.
We've got discount Kingpin Donald Trump.
That's true.
Oh, no.
I thought that was discount Captain America.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
So yeah.
I'm trying to find. Wait, are we on? What chapter are we on now?
We're technically still on 5.
Let's go to 6.
Okay, cool. So 6, chapter 6, the group is able to get a car, 2 cars, and head to the local hospital where they've been told they can go. And they realize that they're absolutely fucked. Noelle's doing very badly. Krouse decides to make a decision, realizing that there is no easy way for them to kind of get out of this, since there's just so much paperwork. There's no way that they're going to be able to be sneaky with 10 months of quarantine, and realize that they're just going to have to make a run for it. So he runs back, gets a power vial, steals one to bring to Noelle, and takes one himself.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think too, part of what's interesting in how bad their situation is their only experience of how the heroes have dealt with creatures from other universes is to kill them or banish them. And they don't really know what that means.
Right.
So very clearly they're trying to blend in, but like we find out later, it's like, yeah, there was no record of anybody with that name in our city.
Right.
You don't exist here. We know that, so it's that whole like, okay, how in the world are we going to hide the fact that we're not from here when they're asking for our address, our insurance, our everything that we need? Yeah. And so I imagine it is that desperation of just like, and again, we see that sort of Taylor mindset where he's like, yeah, well, screw it. I just got to do something. And I think I know what's right for everybody. So I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, get freaking superpowers.
Yeah,
That's never the wrong answer.
Yeah, I was gonna say I
Yeah.
can't believe that they complained about that for as long as they did.
Same. It feels like this is a huge leg up. Like, why not do it? And I guess with Jess like talking about the fact that like, because she knows all the stuff about the superheroes, like she knows that you can get a weird power. Like there are people that are super, like what was I trying to? Oh, neuter. Just like neuter. Like, well, though, that's a terrible example. Never mind.
How about Gregor?
No, also bad example, because once again, these were these are all.
What about
created.
Scythe Arm guy?
Point being that like we know that it could go horribly wrong, and like you could get a power that's like really seriously fucks you up, and like they might not necessarily know about Cauldron and like the case
53s, yeah.
53s.
Thank you.
53.
Case 53s. But basically that like, I mean, it makes sense. Like you want to be really hesitant about this. And if your goal is to go back home and like try to return to some semblance of normal, like you can't do that if you have a big power that's very clearly obvious, like a flaming somebody. I don't know. It just like, it makes sense to hesitate and be like, well, if there is a chance for us to go home, then like, sure, let's go home as we are, rather than go home and potentially like our entire lives will change because we'll show up and we'll have powers now. Like, so like holding off makes sense if you think that you can go home. But if abandon all hope, like, at this point you're going to want to take a power just so you can function in this world.
It is kind of a lose-lose situation, it feels like, because you're either diving into something unknown and you have no idea what you're going to do if you get a power, what it's going to do, how it's going to affect your body or your mind. Or on the other hand, you're powerless and you just hope that the heroes have mercy on you.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of feels like, well, yeah, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think just that moment of when Krouse is standing at that front desk at the hospital, and the automated voice is just. Which, by the way, the automated voice is basically Dragon, right?
Again, yeah, I think that's the assumption.
Yeah. But like he's standing there and he's realizing that like, well, we're gonna need your bank information. It's like, well, I don't have my wallet, like I don't have my stuff. It's like, that's okay. You can tell us your full name and like what bank you bank with, you know.
Yeah. Why are you
USAA.
asking children this?
Well, but the thing though is that like they're 16, they're not children. Like they know who their family banks with. Like you could find that out. All you'd have to, and like when I was that age, I had my social security memorized. Like you should know some stuff, if anything, like basic enough information that like they can pull you up in the system and find you.
I feel like I was, because this was something I remember even up to college being like, oh yeah, I know my social security because, you know, I had to recite it a lot. And I remember having to do that real quick off the top of my head. And somebody thought that was super weird. And then we had a little discussion like, how many people know their social security off the top of their head? And the answer was not a lot of people, because you don't really use it till you're an adult.
Is that a TCK thing?
I think it's a TCK thing
Mm,
because you use it so much more.
yeah, probably.
Yeah, I don't think I knew my social by heart until. Well, actually, no, I can't remember when I learned it. I just kind of feel like I've known it for forever.
I can tell you when I had to learn it. I had to learn it at 10. That is when I had to start reciting my social.
I was about to say, I think it was about 13 for me, but
Mm.
yeah.
I
Like, you
also
just-
learned it
you need to know.
immediately, but that's just because I like numbers.
I don't like
Yeah.
numbers and still forget it all the time.
And there we
Wait.
have the spectrum.
Michael, what was for? 'Cause
I
you
never
guys-
needed to use it overseas.
Okay. Like, I mean, I never needed mine either, but like, it was always something my mom wanted me to have memorized.
Yeah, probably
I
should
had
have.
to- I
but
had to
didn't.
have mine memorized.
Yeah. There you go.
Anywho,
Krouse gets his powers, so we find out where that comes from. Finally, and we find out how it works
Yeah,
too.
really
right?
cool.
That
so cool.
it's a mass-based thing. It's
so
not
cool.
space or literal size in that sense, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I loved the visualization of him seeing like the tethers between objects
Mhm.
and seeing how
Yes.
his mind worked and identifying things of equal mass. It was, really cool visualization.
Yeah, I loved that. That's very. I love when anytime you have like a power that's very like personal to the person, like getting to see what they see in their head. Like, oh, this is how it comes. Like, this is how it is to them specifically. So I love that. Like the whole thing of like, oh yeah, these two things are of the same mass, so they're both kind of like vibrating, and there's a tether, and like I know that I can switch them. So like, woohoo, and there they go. Like that's super cool.
Yeah. Can you do that? Can you do that woohoo again for me? Real quick?
And woo, there it goes.
Thank you.
I love the escape that Krouse and Noel have against Mirrodin.
Oh, Mirrodin.
And his group.
Yeah.
Again, kind of like what you were saying, Nick. I think you were saying how Mirrodin's response is like, "You're not from around here, so banishment." Like, just,
We don't take kindly
Pocket dimension.
to your kind of people around these parts. Alaka banish.
but also
Yeah.
love seeing Mirrodin in action, even for just a moment. Another one of those name dropped capes that I think we've seen a little bit of against Leviathan.
Very, very
A little
little
bit.
bit. Yeah.
But again,
Yeah,
another one of
yeah.
the big names that has popped up.
It's cool.
Mm,
It's like spotting a celebrity in the wild. You're like, oh my gosh, it's them.
I do like Mirrodin's powers too. I want to know how they work.
Yeah.
I mean, we
Well,
kind.
I was gonna say Trickster said a little bit of something that kind of gave a hint to it. The idea that like he has multiple dimensions that each have different things to them. So like when he makes people disappear, it's that's a very specific pocket dimension. And then like the force or whatever is like a different dimension. And like that's so cool. Like I love it. Like basically got a little pouch of marbles, and like each marble is like its own thing. Like, well, this one's gonna be hurricane force that blows everybody backwards, and this one's going to
Mhm.
make everybody disappear. And this one is it's just so fun. I love that.
Mirrodin is also one of my favorite heroes because of just his whole
He went
vibe.
for it.
Went like,
Yeah.
I am a motherfucking wizard.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
it.
prove me wrong. Prove me wrong.
So
wrong.
cool.
You say I'm not,
Isn't it-
bitch.
And
It's wizard time,
Motherfucker.
motherfucker!
I want to
Fireball!
even say,
and
doesn't he
I am
use,
here for
like,
it.
a staff and runes just for the effect?
He does. He
Yeah.
does.
Yep.
That's why he's like
Such a
he
fucking
fully
nerd.
committed to the bit. He
Yeah.
has a
love
robe. He
it.
has a
And like he
beard.
doesn't
He has a
need
staff.
any of that.
And
Yeah.
I am
It's
here
just
for
like,
it.
this is my name.
Yeah,
You know,
no, it's
Mirrodin didn't have to go that hard for us, but he did.
But he did.
yes.
And we're very grateful.
I don my staff and wizard hat.
And we'll elaborate this.
I understood that reference, Michael. Thank you.
Oh,
I love it.
solid.
So good.
No, we'll elaborate this on in a future time. But the idea of like he literally is opening, like you said, his thing is portals, and this is the great example of why Wild Bow's stuff is so cool. Is like he's not conjuring a thing out of thin air. He's doing abilities that other people have, but the way he does them is different. He is opening portals to, in D&D terms, essentially different planes. We're like, oh, I want to shoot
Mhm.
fire out of my hand. I open a portal to the fire plane and just kind of let it leak out through through this nozzle.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to do ice. I open the ice plane and then, through this little portal. And it's just such a cool way for him to do ta-da magic.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah,
No, it's great.
it is. I like that.
Yeah, look, he does. He will use runes. He'll open up portals in the shapes of runes to give the illusion that he is using a rune to activate the magic.
what a goober.
So
That is
cool. I love it.
Exactly how I would use that power. That is brilliant.
Isn't he also like the non-social
Oh,
cape
gotta be.
too?
He definitely Naruto runs
Like, I'm
away
not-
from fights.
Yeah.
Well,
No.
I was gonna put it that far because he's a little bit older. I was gonna say, is he the guy that was like he was playing D&D in his basement
I was about
in the
to say,
80s
yeah.
when powers came about?
Yeah.
And he was like,
Seems
I'm a
like-
wizard. And
Wizard bitch.
one day he saw another superhero and he's like, oh, well, I'm already committed to this. So
Go in a different direction. Like,
I
okay.
cast Blink on, this kid, and now he's in another dimension until I unbanish
my
him.
gosh.
Is he older,
Yeah,
or does he
Blink
just have
motherfucker.
access to a beard dimension? That he.
Oh my
snap.
goodness. Thousands
No, he's
upon
not actually
thousands
older.
of tiny follicle portals.
So here's my thing, right? They don't actually say he's older. They just describe him. He has a long brown beard.
Mm.
So here's my
Ah.
fan casting: Ewan McGregor.
Ah, yes, absolutely, 100%.
Oh
He would get
my
into it too.
Ewan McGregor.
You would go for it.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
That would be
Like,
fun.
So much fun.
Like specifically, sort of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show vibe for outfit, at least, right?
Mhm.
Where it's kind of like that older
Space
grizzled.
wizard.
Yeah, space
Yes.
wizard. Exactly.
Space
You get it. You get it, Michael.
Ah.
I did hear beer dimension.
Oh,
Oh, man.
I
Let me
was
tell
like,
you, he's dangerous at
also
parties. He's not
explains
the
a lot.
social guy until, the party gets turned.
He's just always drunk.
The always drunk wizard hero. That's my hero.
He's not the hero we wanted, but he was the hero we deserved.
We didn't deserve him, but he is the hero we needed.
Well, we're coming near the end here. What do we got? Chapter 7.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're into chapter 7 now. Noelle takes half the vial. They dodge Mirrodin. They head back to where all the other the rest of the group has been hiding out and kind of divvy up, decide what they're doing, and decide to drink the rest of the vials. And then they get the hell out of Madison, Wisconsin. Off they go. And then, unfortunately, along the way, we stop at a rest stop, and Noelle's body suddenly is beginning to morph. And an eye, a large 1 foot long eye, appears on her leg.
Okay. I've immediately got two things I gotta say.
Please.
One is silly, one is a bit more serious. The eye on Noelle's leg. Anybody here play Soul Calibur?
Yep.
Is that what you thought of?
Yep.
Did you think of the Soul Edge, the sword with the eye in it?
Yep.
Listen, viewers, if you want a little bit of nightmare fuel, pun intended, you should go look up the character Nightmare from Soul Calibur.
You bastard.
You bet I'm looking that up right now.
And look at his weapon. It's not him, although he is also creepy. He wields a blade called the Soul Edge.
Shit.
The Soul Calibur.
Shit.
It is not the Soul Calibur.
No.
There is a
No.
difference in lore.
It is. Yes.
But it's called the Soul Edge. And in most iterations, there is a large yellow eye that is in the blade. And I just got to know, John McRae, you a Soul Calibur fan? Because it is a very specific image that when it is described as the eye that is yellow and angry and accusing, I'm like, it's gotta be the eye from Soul Calibur. Like, that's all I can think of.
Also, I'm looking at this. This is horrendous.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's a flesh
it's
blade. It's
very-
horrifying.
And the idea of that, like, a huge freaking eye like that growing out of your leg, like, oh, no.
Yeah, that's don't like
Also,
that.
though, not a great character in the meta of Soul Calibur, unfortunately, but very cool.
Oh my goodness.
Listen, he's a heavy, and heavies just never do that great.
Dude, I'll murder you.
Yeah, I believe
here's the thing.
Ganondorf would like some words with you.
Here's the thing. Casually, they dominate because most people aren't prepared for how powerful they are. Professionally, Ganondorf is literally in his own tier at the bottom of the Smash Ultimate tier list.
Wow.
When I was a young lad, killed with him. So good.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying, though. It's like,
GameCube.
I do love Nightmare.
the
Nightmare is
slander.
again, casually, though. But then you meet a guy who knows how to play Soul Calibur and they crawl as Volo around you.
Yeah, I was about to say,
Fair
yeah,
enough.
that's exactly what I thought.
Okay.
Anyways, so creepy eye. Okay. Actually, I've had two thoughts now, so I'm going to go on for a bit.
Yeah, no, go off.
But this next one will be a bit of a conversation. So, just kind of bringing back some previous things in the arc we didn't cover. Covering Noelle's hesitancy to be physical with Krouse. Covering even just her hesitancy to be intimate with anyone.
Yeah.
I think, to me at least, it's pretty clear that she has undergone possibly some abuse. I don't know that it's, it's clear that something has happened, right? Something has happened to her. Either she was taken advantage of, or she was abused in some way, or made to feel bad about her body. And the point I'm getting to is this gross irony that the girl who feels most uncomfortable in her body, who clearly has been violated bodily, is now the one who is once again being violated by her own powers.
Yep.
And her body is literally turning against her. And I just thought as I was reading this again and kind of reading between the lines with Noelle's story again, it's just like, man, what a sad irony. And of course, Krouse, who has been patient. I mean, this is where we see Krause's like better side, right? Is where he's been patient, he's been kind, he's been understanding. He's even said, look, if this is too much, we can break up. I get it. If you want me to leave the club, I get it. I'm cool. Like, I care about you. That's where I think we really do see, okay, he's not just an asshole. He's got a softer side too. And the irony that he's the one who he makes a decision to give her half of a vial.
Yeah.
And that is it seems like that's what's going to be her downfall.
Yeah.
And now her body's being violated by the power he gave her. And it hurts.
It hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts a lot.
It hurts. Yeah.
Because we know that I think because there's a conversation with her and I forget if it's Jess or Marissa that basically talks about like she helps out with her. Michael, you might want to scrub this. I can't remember if this is here.
I was like, don't spoil it because I don't think they've said much at all.
Well, there's she definitely, is uncomfortable with the body. We'll just go with that for now.
Yeah.
But there's other stuff going on there. But I think my vibe that I was feeling is very much along the side of what you were saying, Nick. I think that Noelle has trauma from some sort of sexual assault. I think, because the vibe I get is a lot of shame about her body and pregnancy vibes.
Oh, interesting.
Really?
I mean, given that
Huh.
now here's two points. To one, the power. We see later on, and this is jumping forward a bit, but
That's okay.
her thing is people touch her and all of a sudden they produce more of them. Like she produces more of them.
Oh shit.
And
Like
they're really
mutated
messed up.
clones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to throw in there. We don't know. We'd have nothing to confirm this, but
Yeah.
given maybe the dating scene, I feel like she's still a little bit younger, so I feel like this might be even a little bit incesty, just because of like I said,
Maybe.
got nothing to go off of that other than
I wouldn't agree
timing.
with that. But
But
okay.
as long as we're just throwing that stuff out there, that
Yeah.
and there's a line that she says in 17.6 where she, we've talked about, she very much no touch. She doesn't like being intimate with people. Krouse even says she came into this feeling damaged or something like that. There's a comment that she makes about having a plug on her belly and
yeah.
basically having some comment about basically being like having a bag of shit or being,
Yeah.
and it very much felt like she was talking about her own body in regards to this, like having something inside of her and, removing something from inside of her with the plug and everything that felt like a pregnancy that had been terminated because it was from a sexual assault. Very much reading into that.
Yeah.
But she's the one that even makes that comment about the plug on the belly and the bag of shit.
Well, no. What that's in reference to is after she's been taken into the hospital, she says, "This is what they're telling me I'm gonna have to do to survive."
Yes,
is that she'll have to have the colon bag and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that. I don't know if I quite get that, but I don't know. It's an interesting
the way
thing to
that
think
she
around,
said it, though, is because she says something like that.
I have it right here. She says, I kind of wish we'd done more boyfriend and girlfriend stuff. Sorry. Don't need to apologize. You did what you had to do. She said, I could die. They're cutting too much out and they can't wait any longer, but my condition's bad, so I could die on the table. And he says, you're not going to die. She says, even if I live, I'm going to be ugly. Nice big plastic plug in my belly with a bag of shit attached, which is really iconic, which was really ironic. You don't even know. And she trailed off. He said, I sort of figured it out. She nods. Big scars, bag of shit is why I wish we'd done more before. Won't be any good to look at after. And he says, I don't care about your scars. It doesn't matter anyways. You're not going to die.
Yeah. Right there. The nice
trailing
big
off
plastic plug in my belly with the bag of shit attached, which is really ironic. You don't even know. And he goes, I sort of figured it out.
Yeah, I see where you're going.
I can see where
you're
going.
Yeah. Right there.
Yeah.
Feels like she might have had a scar on her belly already or something like that.
Yeah. So I actually, that was not the direction I went. So originally when we meet Noelle, I assumed that it was sexual assault. It was this part that made me think it was probably still sexual assault, but also tied with self-harm. A lot of a lot of people are aware of cutting wrists or upper thighs, but for girls even it's sometimes your stomach because of a lot of stuff. And so cutting up your stomach is not unheard of with girls who cut. And I'm sure I don't know about with guys, but that's been from what I, friends and working at summer camp with teenage girls, and it's a lot more common.
With guys too.
Yeah.
And a lot of it starts at traditionally at wherever,
Yeah.
wherever's the closest, often
Right.
the
It's available. Or where you can
there.
hide.
But then I was gonna say where you can hide is usually
Yeah.
where it ends up though.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Some heavy stuff.
Yep.
Yep.
Do you want to keep going through? I've actually found some comments from Wildbow about the powers. So we're talking about,
Yeah.
oh,
I actually have a comment about the powers I was thinking about earlier.
Mm-hmm. I had a thought on that too, actually.
Yeah. So in this chapter, when they're looking at the different vials and they're like divvying up what they think each person wants, there's a vial in there that's called Aegis,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
and I was kind of like, wait, like our Aegis? Like,
I don't think it's related.
okay, because I noticed it and I was kind of had like a little moment of like, what? So I wasn't sure, and that I wondered if you guys had noticed that, but
I think there could
doesn't
just
track
be
back.
some subtle world building that doesn't really need more explanation. Like maybe Aegis took that vial and it was so successful he kept the name. Could have been something as simple as that.
Right.
Yeah. Which
That's what my assumption was.
it's interesting. You have like a lot of these names that are actually mixes of things.
Yeah.
And have like all of them have balance in them.
Yeah. It's like a stabilizer, basically, right?
Yeah, it's a stabilizer, but it's also part of the power thing. Just as we'll get to, Noelle essentially got all of the power, but none of the stabilizer. And Oliver basically drank all the stabilizer. Yeah.
Okay.
That
was another thing that I had been thinking about with this is that question of what would Noelle and Oliver's powers have looked like if Noelle had just taken the whole vial, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we learn about it later, and I guess this is kind of future stuff maybe, what we learn about it later is, of course, Noelle's whole thing where if you touch her and she attacks you, then she creates like disturbed clones of you with your powers, with everything still intact. Oliver has become, still is sheepish, hasn't affected him emotionally or mentally, but has become this handsome, muscular, ever improving mentally and physically specimen.
Yeah.
So
That's
I've been trying to
interesting.
put it together as an idea of, okay, what would these powers have been? And all I can come up with is a couple of ideas. Is first, this idea that Noelle's power basically would have been, if you want to think of it this way, like the gift of strength, in the sense of she could touch somebody and say, hey, I'm going to create a better version of you. Sort of just saying, like, there will be a clone of you that'll have all your powers except better, and that'll be what we use to go out and fight. Like that, you don't even have to go out and fight. I'll make a better you. And I don't know. I've been trying to just figure out what that might be like, and I'm not 100% sure that I'm happy with that idea. That's just the one idea that came to mind for me.
Yeah.
Also, the idea that if
Yeah.
Noelle had taken the whole thing, that she probably wouldn't be so like
Oh, absolutely.
disfigured, basically.
Oh
That
yeah,
she would
she would have been,
have
would
had
been fine.
that good side that Oliver had. That was basically the incredibly good looking, constantly improving kind of thing, which is like another horrible twist of fate kind of.
Yeah.
Poor girl can't catch a break.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Also, it's weird because, and they don't really talk about it at all. So this is, some out of canon wild or in canon wild stuff. But the balance is essentially like it keeps you more human. So that's what's preventing you from doing the case
Full
53 stuff.
monster, yeah.
So the less balance, the more likely you are to do that. So it's the more human side. So Oliver is basically pure. My power is that I'm more human. So one of the
Oh.
weird things with him, it's like not. It's hinted at, but just barely, is that he changes every time he meets someone, just slightly.
Yeah.
Like
well,
he does not
I was about
look
to say,
like himself.
Krouse says something about that like sometimes he sees him again and he's like doesn't quite recognize him.
Yeah. So like it is like he is becoming just, he's adding human elements to himself all the time. And sometimes that's him changing, parts of his facial structure, sometimes it's his hair, his build. Like he is a shapeshifter, if you will, just really slowly, with all these human aspects.
The
Hmm.
most human.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He has the ability to let's see, non-combat mode. He gained powers to alter his appearance and improve his ability to learn or physically better himself. So like even if he doesn't, physically change, on a muscular level, he has an innate sense of how to do it. Like, oh, I've got to work out these muscles.
Man, he just every morning wakes up and is like, oh, okay, that's the workout I got to do. Downloaded.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. The ultimate Sigma grind set, Oliver.
Except Krouse says he's still a dweeb, so I just imagine the super muscular,
The
just
ultimate Shrigma grind set.
like
Oliver.
he just like he walks in and he's super muscular, but then somebody like pinches him on the arm and he's just like, "Oh, stop!"
Aw.
The Henry
Bless.
Cavill walks into a party and then just goes immediately and finds like the cat in the corner. And it's just like,
Yes.
no friends, just you and me for the night.
Hello, fur
Yeah.
baby.
But yeah, so in regards to the others, Wild Bow was correcting someone in an old sufficient velocity form. It said there is a connection though. Marissa's mother wanted her to shine. She only found peace when she got away from the spotlight, but now she shines brighter than ever. Luke was the pillar of the team, everyone's friend, the glue that held them all together.
Oh.
Now he stands the most alone. He destroys rather than supports.
Oh, God.
Jess was really good at compartmentalizing her life, facing reality and entertaining fiction with monsters and superheroes in good measure. Now the lines between reality and dream are blurred. She has everything she secretly wanted for herself and little else. Yeah.
I love that plays into the Wild Bow sort of indirectly supporting the claim that like when somebody triggers, their power is influenced by their mental state, essentially, which you've kind of danced around before, but really sort of confirms that to an extent.
Yeah. And we've talked before about with battery.
Yeah.
That basically like you have to be in the right mindset when you're taking your power, like by being in a calm mindset and like basically having passed all of your physicals, you have a higher chance of like getting a really like your power being controlled well and not being kind of monstrous in that way. And then of course all of these teenagers that have just been through an incredibly traumatic event, and then Noelle who is looking at a future of having a bag attached to her and being stuck in a world that isn't her own and feeling like she might die on an operating table and all of that, and then she takes half of a power vial. Like it's no surprise that things went so horribly wrong, that like all of them are in a bad mental state, and then of course like it impacts them in certain ways, some better than others, but that like your mental state does have plays a huge part into how the powers do affect you, like how they do kind of come into play.
Yeah.
So I could read some more off of these vials if we want to talk about them.
Yeah.
Some of these vials were talked about for Wild Bow running RPGs and stuff like that. So he has like a list of like, oh, if your character took this vial, this is what would happen. So a fun one, Deus, which I think I've mentioned before, but that is the one that Genesis took, is the same one that Siberian took.
Interesting.
So they're both projection powers.
Yeah.
Division, which is the one that Noelle drank, It's got multiple, suggestions. A duplication cape that spawned off copies of people they could see with the cape's memories or personality. A cape that could create pods that they could respawn from if they died within a certain range. A case 53 that could smear themselves over someone in a semi-liquid state and then walk away with a share of that person's vitality and that person's features, but not powers. A cape that could spawn off chunks of themselves that would expand and eventually serve as deployment zones for their own intelligence duplicates. It goes on with a few more, but I thought those were interesting ones.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
Trickster's Jaunt, that's on over by itself. Prince, which is the Sundancer one, which has both a 30% mixture of Aegis and 15% mixture of balance in it. Large remote controlled construction, almost always with the same general parameters, had a trend of giving a variety of powers, but always in the context of creating a large construct, such as creating giant rings that would act as portalesque portals, or a massive floating blaster turret, or a localized kinetic storm. So it's always going to be some sort of large creation. And in this case, Sundancer's is the giant fire sun. Robin's is taken by Ballistic. It's always limited and non-versatile power. Vestige isn't that interesting. And the rest are all other things. But yeah. Some interesting, fun fun
Also,
effects.
you did mention earlier that Wildbow was correcting somebody
Yes.
earlier. Wildbow, we would really love it if you would correct us, please. Please come on the podcast.
I still haven't sent an email. I really should.
Person. Oh my God. Wait. Have we not officially invited Wildbow to be on the podcast yet?
No, I was told no, and then we just
had
never
to
did.
have the podcast out.
We had to
first.
establish ourselves at least a little bit. Yeah.
Now we're known around the world.
It would be my most greatest dream to talk through a lot of these. Honestly, I just would really love to have a writing workshop where we talk about powers and character creation and building good characters. This
that would be amazing.
I'd be fine if this podcast just turned into a writing workshop podcast with Wildbow. John, please. Please.
Hear our cries.
We'll
I don't
get
know
you
if
a
we can
pizza.
ask him to do all that, but
Well, not all of that. How about just a great start is we'd love to just sit and talk with you and nerd out with you about your stuff. And
little Q&A.
Yeah.
yes,
That'd be awesome.
Or revisit some of our, dissection stuff.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that would be fun. I would love to hear his opinions because we've had some really weird.
We have 2 summary episodes.
I
We've had
know.
some
Go over with them.
very
Some
off the wall
fun ideas.
choices.
Well, especially
Hopefully it lights a fire.
I mean, to shift over to dissecting, we used the joke oft told that's made its way around the worm forums of the whole "take that, you worm" catchphrase, which Wildbow was famously pitched by somebody attempting to adapt it. And I would just love to hear more stories of the terrible ideas that producers have pitched to him about how to adapt it.
Ourselves included.
I was going to say, I would love to know where we rank on this. He's like, yeah, you guys are some of the worst or some of the better ideas. I would love to know. That would be phenomenal. That would be great.
Yeah. We gave Leviathan a voice.
Deep, gravelly voice.
I was thinking Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Only the finest.
No, he's the puppet guy. We already said that.
Oh, mannequin? Danny DeVito's?
No, not mannequin. The guy who...
That's even better.
No, the...
Nilbog.
Nilbog.
Yeah.
He's Nilbog.
Oh my gosh.
That's right.
That's already canon. It's already
I
canon.
absorbed
We've
all the
already said that.
biomass. Now I'm popping off.
He's Nilbog. We've already said it.
Oh my God. Okay.
Frank, you can't just make little goblin creatures everywhere. Why not? Why not, Charlie?
I'm the trash man.
Okay. Are we cool moving
We
on
have
to
one more chapter.
our last chapter? Yeah, chapter 8.
Yeah. Let's do it.
So we've moved a little bit further into the future, not quite to our current Taylor future yet. But it's been a bit of time since we left Madison.
Like 2
Trickster,
years?
2 years,
Huh?
yeah.
I think it's like 2
yeah,
years.
about 2 years. Trickster has a meeting with Accord, the local villain. Things go a little bit awry, and we realize that Cody has messed with Noelle, and he has these duplicates that are going crazy and able to handle them. We do finally see Noelle's true form, as they've kind of kept her locked away. The travelers get a call and are hired by Coil. And then we have this moment where Trickster wakes up on the beach, and we realize that we have officially caught up to the present day, the present story in Brockton Bay.
One slight note we kind of skipped over, but I realized this as I'm looking over my notes. I was under the impression that Professor Haywire had died like a decade prior to the story's beginning, but it's implied that he was killed in Madison, Wisconsin, which we just totally glossed over. But like he was up.
In that whole thing?
Yeah,
I don't think he is.
that's the implication.
Both of you cite your sources.
Okay. All right.
I'm citing the
That's the
Worm Wiki,
implication.
which has been wrong before. But that's what I was looking at, because I was looking up the different characters there, and yeah, the implication is that he was killed during that attack.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Maybe I'm wrong.
If anybody knows for sure and for certain in the comments, feel free to
Give us a
know.
call.
That would make sense
At
if-
our
Yeah,
phone
give us a
number.
call. Leave us a voicemail.
I forget off the top of my head.
980-999-0438.
Give us a call. Leave us a voicemail. Let us know about Professor Haywire, so we can make sure we're getting these details right. Because it's important that we stay correct.
Keep us honest.
Keep us honest.
No.
Yeah. No, it's a small fan base, but we are small but mighty.
Let's talk about Accord.
Yeah, let's talk
This
about
feels
Accord
like
for a second.
literally the brother to another mother of Coil.
Brother to another mother?
You know what I'm saying. You step into what I'm putting down.
Are we?
Brother with another
yeah.
mother that may or may not be the same mother, yet another mother that he is mothering right now.
A doctor mother, perhaps.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. No. Accord is very interesting. I like Accord.
What
What
if
is this?
OCD was a power?
That is a great way to describe that. That is his power.
Yeah, we'll get to him later. I feel the same way as Nick, but then his power, I'm like, actually, you know what? I kind of dig it.
You hear the term,
for another time.
weaponized autism. Like that's
Once again, no. He's not weaponized
just this
autism. He's
podcast.
weaponized
yeah,
OCD.
it's everything has to be absolutely perfect. Can't mess anything up.
Colin is a combat autist.
We stan a short king who knows what he wants.
It's fair.
Is he that short?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's 5 foot.
He's shorter than Krouse.
Oh, I
He's 5
glazed
foot.
over that. Maybe because I don't see height.
Yeah. Well, okay. Stupid.
Well, everybody's shorter than you, Alan.
That's true. That's true. Alan is
A little bit of
6'3".
Alan lore.
Yeah, no, but it's not just OCD of like, yeah, these pens need to be in the correct order, but like also the kind of the understanding of the balance of the universe and the balance of the world. And like he even talks about with Trickster that like you understand balance, like I know what your power is, like your whole thing is understanding an even equivalent exchange of things. Like it's not just that I have to have my pens in the right order, like my desk has to be perfect, but it's also like the understanding that the world needs to be in balance as well. And I like that Trickster's response with everything with Sundancer and like how he's like, yeah, you just need a killer, is that to show that she understands balance, she understands like the balance of the universe by having her dance for him. like do a ballet thing. What's it called?
Mhm.
Routine. Do a ballet routine, and that like will show him her discipline, her understanding of balance, her understanding, and not balance like she can balance on
Like
her
a literal
toes, but
physical balance.
yeah, well, but also like the understanding of like for ballet, you have to be aware of the music, you have to be aware of the tempo, you have to be aware of every single move, and the rotation of your arms and your legs and your muscles and all the coordination that comes into play. So like to show that she understands the the balance,
Mhm.
the harmony of it. That she's not just some rough henchman that ran through the doors and interrupted their meeting.
She's an agent of order
Yeah.
and understands the importance of order.
Yes. And I love that. I love that Trickster kind of like has this moment where he's like, oh, I think I can fix this. Like, I know how to fix this, which is very cool. I really liked that.
Yeah, you better get in there and dance your heart out. What if it doesn't work? Burn the
it
place
down.
down.
I do
think
love
that's
that.
great.
Like, no, Accord. I totally get balance. Look what I can do. It's just how I imagine it.
Asks him to go after Blasto, which I'll tell you right now, what a bait and switch name. Because that
Yeah, what
sounds
is
like the
Blasto's power?
most.
He's a tinker.
It's plants.
He's a
He's a plant
Yeah.
tinker.
biotinker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Blasto for like blastocyst, isn't that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like I think it's like
It's a
bud,
weird.
bud
It's fantastic.
germinate maybe
Yeah.
in Latin.
It's like a really
been a
weird.
while since I've seen
It's
it as a root
fantastic.
word, but yeah,
I love
that's one of those where you're like, Blasto, man, it sounds like an Earth Aleph hero if I've ever heard one. Like, what does he do? Oh, he shoots lasers.
Yeah.
Blasting.
Yeah, really?
Well, I just
Wow.
started blasting.
Fire my laser beam.
Yeah, but what a stupid sounding basic name that turns out to be like a really, kind of cool, because you're going doing some like Latin science shit with
Yeah.
that tinker stuff. Like, okay,
Fucking
so
tinkers.
there's more to this. A terrible name still because it sounds like the other thing.
I can imagine him getting like super
Whatever.
frustrated at people that don't understand what his power is. It's like having to
Exactly.
explain it over and over again.
Yeah.
PRT keeps showing up with anti-laser riot shields. It's like,
He's like,
the
"You guys
last
still
time,
don't get
guys,
what I'm
it
trying
has
to
nothing to do
do."
with lasers. All right, guys, he's about to blast us.
I love it.
I will wait until he says it's blasting time. He's gonna blast everywhere.
Well, they get to meet up. Gets the phone call from Coyle. Gets a little bit of hope.
Who is the future seer that Coyle is talking about?
Dinah.
Dinah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Or is he just counting his chickens? Like,
No, I think it's Dinah.
No, it's Dinah. It's definitely Dinah.
because that's
She's
what
the
I'm
precog.
thinking. But given the timing of this, like, okay,
Well,
how quickly did they go from here to there? Because he kidnaps Dinah in arc
Mhm.
3,
Mm-hmm.
and they show up for the first time in arc 5.
They show up in
Correct.
arc. They show up
Beginning
in
of
arc 5, and they have the conversation. The travelers are associated with Coyle in arc 6 or 7. Yeah.
But they show up in Brockton Bay
well,
at arc 5. That's when
Mhm.
we know they're in Brockton Bay.
Mhm.
yeah. Well,
'Cause I always assumed that they had been there for like a little bit already, but were on the down low. And I just didn't associate that, like, oh, he grabbed Dinah and then immediately called them up and was like, I need you in town now.
Well, I imagine he probably had them already, like on a sticky note on his desk. Like he knew that he needed to like get them to Brockton Bay, and it was like, I just need to get all the final pieces to fall into place. And once I have my precog, I'm gonna call up Trickster, and I know that this whole operation is gonna be too much for him to resist, and they'll come running. And so, like, well, I got Dinah yesterday. Time to make my call today. Like, I would imagine that it probably happened fairly quickly.
Yeah, I was wondering what the timing was with that because and they are right around the corner. They're in Boston,
Right.
so
Yeah,
like
no, they're
jumping to
fairly
Brockton
close.
is real close. but it just made me think like,
An hour
did
drive.
he like make a promise before he kidnapped her? Is like, oh, I've totally got this precog that's consensually here, totally not kidnapped. And hold on, I'm listening. She said she could totally help you out. Meanwhile, he's like, all right, so we got to kidnap this kid before they get here.
I also get the sense that the Travelers probably had a bit of notoriety built up at this point, given that he was able to get a private meeting with the Cord. They had probably done a bit of work to get their name out there.
Yeah.
Because I think when we see them in Brockton Bay, it's for the first time it's in the villain meeting when they're discussing Bakata. Or no, they're discussing
and it does feel like they
ABB.
just showed up, kind of.
Yeah, they're brand new to the scene in Brockton Bay.
And then Trickster just kind of looks at Coil's brain matter in the sand there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about this real quick.
Wait. Before we get to the ending, we didn't talk at all about Cody being an asshole.
Oh,
yeah, we need to talk.
We spent the whole first part of this episode talking about how much of an asshole Cody is.
He's like a real asshole now.
But also,
he was always
where is Cody?
He fled like a bitch.
Did he?
No.
Oh.
Because
I think he got given to a Cord.
Oh, that's what
I think they gave him to a Cord and then left town.
I think you're right.
Oh my gosh, because they don't say, they kind of imply that he's, because at first he's like, oh, I'm going to kill him. And then, oh, well, okay, he, they mentioned that he's pretty banged up. He's got a broken leg, broken arm. But like, I finished that chapter and I kind of just like sat here. I was like, wait, because I don't know Cody. Like, we don't know Cody. We don't know the time.
What's his hero name?
Perdition.
That's what it is.
Because I know what happens to Cody. I was just saying, we just haven't had it.
We haven't gotten to it yet?
Okay. And we don't know a little bit.
Okay, well, we can just wait, I guess.
Yeah, we'll
find out.
Talk about it when it comes back up.
Okay.
But
I was assuming that he'd been given to a Cord.
They do talk about that.
At least at this point.
Yeah.
At least at this point.
Yeah.
Because doesn't he say, like, go deal with the real troublemaker then?
Well, yeah,
because that's what a Cord says is like,
right.
It's like, I see that Sundancer's not the problem. You need to give me whoever
deliver
is
the problem.
Deliver the problem to me.
Yeah.
And they're all like, oh, shoot, that's Cody.
It's always been Cody. Come on.
Yeah. They've been trying to kick him off of the esports team for 2 years.
It's been so long. Yeah.
How about that final scene?
Yeah, okay. Very well might be that I'm just goldfish brain, don't remember. I didn't think that they shot Coil at the beach. Like, they must have, since that's clearly where we are. But like,
no, I was with you. The setting threw me off a bit too, for some reason.
Yeah, it felt like, wait, we're at the beach? Like, what? When were we at the beach? Like, I thought we were in like some random patchy, grassy spot somewhere.
Yeah. Behind a building
somewhere. Yeah. Like, not.
I'll be honest.
The beach.
Setting wise, because characters and dialogue and powers are going off and they find them really important, I often forget a lot of the geographical details that like it doesn't matter. Look, when there's a swarm of bugs and a fireball and stuff, I really don't care whether we're at the beach or not. Like, unless Leviathan's showing up, in which case don't be on the beach. Like, unless your powers are interacting with it, kind of doesn't matter most of the time. Like, and so I think my brain just skips over like, and there was no grass and definitely sand and water everywhere.
And it was
a beach. I'm just like, yeah. And then she plugs him, which is the important part.
Right. Yeah.
It's what's interesting about the final scene is like, it's clearly set up to make you kind of empathize with the Travelers as a group. And kind of being like, okay, well, great, Coil's dead. That's great for our main characters, but like, kind of screws over these guys, Yeah. But at the same time, I'm like, all right, I mean, that's fine. They're screwed.
Yeah.
Sucks to suck, guys. Maybe don't be dicks.
Yeah, maybe.
But I love them. They're
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I don't remember what's about to happen, and I just, it's kind of upsetting that I don't remember, and I know something's about to fucking blow the fuck up, but I don't know what it is, and
Well, we know from the previous arc that Noelle was let out.
Yeah, it's something with Noelle is coming, but I just don't
we
know
saw
what it
in the
is.
section that her body seems to be taking on
Uh-huh.
whatever people she eats or absorbs.
So creepy.
And
they've been feeding her a lot of cows, weren't they?
they said like
Well,
basically
maybe it was
they have
just
to
meat.
get her
General.
a bunch of meat. Yeah,
Yeah.
a bunch of meat on a regular basis.
ugh.
And then, I mean, and
Like, okay, cool.
and Trickster sort of just drops, well, not it like mentally drops to the audience, to the readers, that like, oh yeah, just casually the last time she got out, 40 people were dead in a
Yeah, 40
in a minute.
people died.
And that was when she was
yeah,
smaller
and
and weaker.
it's implied that
you
that
know?
was
Yeah.
way before she's where she's at now. Like,
Yeah. And he kept it a secret too from the rest of the group. Like they knew people died, but they didn't know how many people Noelle had killed.
also just the horror of Noelle believing that she's turning into an Endbringer. It's just like,
oh gosh. And she's tried to kill herself multiple
Yep.
times. Like, oh, Noelle, like my heart is shattered for this poor girl. Like she's been dealt the worst hand.
Yeah.
yeah, we've had a few of these chapters now and arcs at this point where it's like, yeah, this is where those triggers are coming in. This is why we have that list
Mhm.
on the podcast.
Yeah,
Ugh, it's rough. Hard to read.
it is. It's not easy to prepare for it either. Like, you know it's going to happen. Like with Bonesaw, we all knew that, like, okay, there's going to be some bad shit that happens with Bonesaw. But then there are other times, like with Noelle, where it comes up and you're not necessarily prepared for it. And it just hits a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Man, we are getting into some good stuff as we
Yeah.
get
Heck
into
yeah.
the back half of this amazing story.
I'm ready. I'm very ready.
Any final thoughts? Any parting thoughts on this arc?
I mean, it sounds like it's favorite power time.
Man, we
Yeah,
have
it
a lot of
is.
powers to choose from
We
here.
do.
Who's gonna kick it off? Who's got a good one to start with?
Okay, I do want to say though, this is not my favorite power, but possibly my favorite power moment is is the way that Krouse abuses Cody's power against him.
Oh, that was
And
great.
just the-
I enjoyed
Yeah.
that.
I can do this all day. Like,
Yeah.
just the
Also, and
bam,
before
Yeah.
then, Cody's repeated just ball kicks and then resetting him,
Yeah.
kicking him again.
Damn.
What happened?
Just-
Damn.
Wait, describe for me who hasn't read what happened, Nick.
Okay, so basically, Perdition or Cody's power is that he has time control powers, but it's only for a few seconds, right? So he can reset certain objects where they were in time, roughly 4 or 5 seconds previously.
1 to
So-
5 seconds.
1 to 5 seconds. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. 1 to 5 seconds, right? So he's resetting everything every 1 to 5 seconds as a possibility. What's great about it, though, is that as the moment that Krouse figures this out, he gets behind Cody, shoves him into a bookcase. So naturally, Cody resets time back to where he was. But he can only reset himself back far enough to once again be slammed
no.
into the bookshelf by
Right.
Krouse. And then literally, it's just Krouse basically saying, I can do this all day, Cody.
Pushes him into the bookcase like 4 times.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
And
funny.
the
Amazing.
other thing about the power about the time thing is that you whatever you affect, they don't remember. So he
Yeah,
can do
yeah.
it to Krouse, like he can do the ball kick, basically reset Krouse a couple of times and like kick him in the balls. And Krouse won't remember that it's happened like 4 or 5 times. So he
Or
can
feel it. It's
or
a
feel
hard
it.
reset.
Yeah, it's a hard
Yeah.
reset. And so it's less about like the damage and more about the satisfaction of being able to do it to somebody. So Krouse can do this over and over, and Cody has no idea that he's reset himself, 5 times in a row and gotten pushed into a bookcase 5 times. Like he doesn't remember. So it's a very funny moment.
That's a good one.
It's
a good pick.
very fun.
It's one of my
That's
favorite
awesome.
moments for sure.
Yeah.
It's one of the moments of all time.
Oh, definitely. One of the moments.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to give a shout out to Mirrodin. It's don't get a lot of them, but we've already fanboyed over him a bit here. Great character.
Yeah, Mirrodin's
moments.
Great. Mirrodin's great.
I really like the Simurgh.
Mhm.
She's just so. She's such a force, and the idea that she's just kind of like the way that she fights is so effortless because she knows what's coming, and she can see it all, and that precogness, like I really love that, and kind of this very angelic. There's some beautiful artwork of her on the internet that's just like, oh, I love that. I love the whole like biblically accurate angel artwork. Like that's so cool with all the wings and the eyes. And so like she gives off that feeling of like very otherworldly, very like just bigger than most capes and bigger than most like the other Endbringers. Like they're big and they're monsters and whatever, but she just kind of has like a different vibe to her. And I really like that. She's very cool. Also, I do love the Trickster thing. I didn't mention it earlier when it happened, but how Trickster locks them all with the cars, does the car swap.
Yeah.
That was so smart. I thought that was phenomenal. I loved that. That was
He
great.
does that again
Trickster
for
moment.
a getaway when they're getting after they kill the Perdition clone. They like hop in one car
and then
swap it out for another.
Else. I love that. That's super great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I do think if he wasn't such an asshole, I think Perdition's power is very cool. And it's really one of the only new powers we've seen, so to speak. We've seen a lot of powers that have been reiterated here that we've seen before, technically. We've just kind of found out more about them. But yeah, there's just something about it again. It's just like, man, if you just weren't such an a-hole.
Such a dick.
Then honestly, I think you'd have some really cool powers, dude. But you gotta be an ass about it.
Yeah, I love that both Trickster and Cody got sort of powers that cancel each other out in a way or respond to each other. Kind of got the yin and yang for each other. And in both cases, both probably have some of the most flexible powers possible. And instead of being really clever with it, they're pushing each other into bookcases.
Absolute dicks about it.
What a goof.
What a goof.
Yeah. Yeah, if this is one of those cases where like, man, given the user of the power, it comes across really lame. So like I can't give it to Perdition. Like he makes that power look useless.
Yeah.
And so
he's the sorry to interrupt you, but all I'm thinking is like he's the skid mark of the Travelers.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, wow, way to be a scrub about this.
If you had to leave somebody with a cord, like it might as well be Cody.
Thank God. No, so I can't give it to him. Otherwise, it would have been him. But it's so lame when he does it. So I'm gonna go Matryoshka. I like the cool unraveling person, and
that was pretty cool.
Absorbing people, and then like kind of like gaining their person, like gaining parts of them into herself. Like I realize that's due to canonical, extra canonical, but yeah, I thought that was just really interesting. So I like Matryoshka.
Yeah, that is very cool.
All right, well, I think we've just about wrapped up the whole arc.
It's probably like our second shortest episode.
Between the technical difficulties and the rants and the who else knows what Michael will decide needs to get cut. We're probably getting in. I don't know. I'm gonna take a wild guess.
We're doing pretty good. Under 3
hour,
hours,
15 minutes?
you know?
I mean, probably at least 20 minutes of this is usable.
Oh, no, I just let you guys cook most of the time. Our audience gets what they get,
That's
you know?
right.
Whatever
Yeah.
you're giving them.
That's right.
Well, on that note,
We're just having fun here, having
we're
a
having a
good
blast. And we're having a blasto.
time.
Oh, dang. Well done.
All right.
If you got some good worm puns, give us a call at 980-999-0438. That's 980-999-0438. And your voicemail may be featured on our next episode. Speaking of next episode, we are diving into Arc 18. I think the plan is the full arc. I don't think we're breaking up any arcs here. So full arc, good long arc.
Full
I was going to
steam.
say we're back into it. This was a nice little breather.
You know what they say? Full arc, full hearts can't lose.
Exactly. So stick with us, Arc 18 for the Brockton Bay Book Club, and stick around, of course, for the next episode of Dissecting Worm. We'll be talking Arc 17 here, continuing that whole screenplay idea that Ellen and I are still plugging away in because we're crazy.
Gluttons for punishment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
We just can't help it. It's my kink.
It's adapting worm to script format.
No.
Bless.
It's being told that my adaptation choices are bad. That is my kink.
That's right.
I feed off of that.
You know,
Mhm.
for
Oh,
some
no.
it's tractors. For others,
Don't bring Taylor into this.
I mean, we didn't say his name. But
You
I
said
wasn't gonna
tractors.
say
That was
who.
close enough.
And on that note,
your words, not mine.
we'll go ahead and call it here. Thanks everyone for participating as always. Love doing this with you all. Thanks to everybody for listening. It's been a blast. And we'll see you next time. Michael, play us out.
Thank you so much for listening. Read along with us at parahumans.wordpress.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What did you love? What did you hate? Anything you think we missed, etc., as long as it's kind. If you'd like to get in touch, you can find us on Twitter, Threads, Instagram, TikTok, and Reddit at Brocktonbaybc, or click the link in the description.